On the way to the college entrance exam, my best friend and I came across someone who had accidentally fallen into the water. My friend, rushing to get to the exam hall, urged me not to get involved, believing that saving a life was a noble date. I jumped into the river to rescue the person, causing me to miss the first exam. Little did I know, the girl who fell into the water was the heiress of the Song family, the most prominent, wealthy dynasty in Yunqing. To show their gratitude, the Song family not only gave me a large sum of money, but also secured me a high-paying job right after I graduated from college, setting me on an effortless path to the top. My best friend, who had been struggling to find a job, was consumed by jealousy and secretly poisoned my water. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day of the college entrance exams. My best friend jumped into the water first, and I could hear her innermost thoughts. This time, the heavens have rained down riches upon me. 1. Help. Someone's in the water. The cries for help snapped me out of my thoughts. A figure was struggling in the water beneath the bridge, bobbing up and down as they desperately called out to passers-by. The river was swift and treacherous, making a rescue attempt extremely dangerous. One wrong move, and you could easily lose your own life. In my past life, I faced an identical scene. My best friend Runa and I were on our way to the college entrance exams when we saw someone drowning. Coincidentally, we both knew how to swim. Runa urged me not to get involved and to focus on getting to the exam hall on time. This time, however, Runa pushed me aside and plunged into the raging river with a splash. She even turned back to shout at me, "Juno, get to the exam. Don't let this mess up your go. Go. I'm a stronger swimmer than you. I'll get them out safely." Her inner voice echoed in my ears. This time, that unimaginable fortune will be mine. I couldn't miss the look of absolute determination in her eyes, and I instantly realized she had been reborn, too. How could I possibly refuse my best friend's kindness? There were only 20 minutes left until the exam. In my past life, I missed the first test because I stopped to help someone, which led to failing the college entrance exam. Years of hard work went down the drain, and my score was only good enough for a vocational college. Because of this, my parents were mocked by Runa's parents for a long time. This time, I turned and ran straight for the exam hall without looking back. In my past life, the Song family made a huge spectacle of thanking me for saving their child's life, even giving me a large sum of money. It made the local trending news, and everyone online praised me for being both beautiful and kind-hearted. Back then, Runa was absolutely furious. She secretly spread the story everywhere that she was actually the one who had intended to jump in and save the person first, and then I had stopped her, stealing her chance at a prosperous future. She repeated it so often that she seemed to have convinced even herself, and her resentment towards me only grew. It got to the point where, after graduating, she struggled to find a job at every turn. Seeing me, a mere college graduate, effortlessly land a management position at the Song Group with $1 million salary drove her into a jealous frenzy. She secretly poisoned my water when I wasn't looking and killed me. Given a second chance at life, I couldn't help but sneer as I ran, watching Runa struggle to rescue someone from the rushing water. This time, we'll see who has the last laugh. 2. I rushed to the exam hall in a frantic hurry, arriving just in time. After receiving the test paper, I tried to calm my inner excitement and began to answer the questions, failing the college entrance exam in my past. Life became an obsession of mine. That summer, I copied down the exam questions and their answer keys, poring over them again and again until I had practically memorized them. I never thought I'd get a second chance. This time, I won't let the opportunity to go to university slip through my fingers. Runa was assigned to the same exam hall as me. Unlike my past self, she didn't rush back after saving someone. In fact, she was absent the entire day. The exams finished. I went home, and right at my doorstep, I saw her stepping out of a luxury car. Runa was wearing a limited edition designer outfit, waving a sweet goodbye to the person inside the car. Runa's family and mine were neighbors for 4 or 5 years, and as luck would have it, we went to the same school. So, naturally, we became quite close. I turned around, and there she was. She scurried over to me, bubbling with excitement. Juno, guess who I pulled out of the river today? The Song family. Talia Song, the heiress of the most prominent family in Yunqing. She animatedly described to me just how wealthy the Song family was, but her eyes never left me. I didn't miss the probing look in her gaze. It seems she suspects I might have been reborn as well. I pretended not to notice, furrowing my brow with concern. Runa, you missed a whole day of exams. Your college entrance exam is definitely ruined. You'd better think about how to explain this to your mom to avoid a scolding. After a few seconds of silence, convinced my worry was genuine, she thought to herself, I was overthinking it. A second chance at life isn't some common cabbage anyone can get. She rolled her eyes at me. Juno, you're such a nerd. So boring. If my mom knew I'd latched onto the Song family, she'd be praising me nonstop. Listen, to thank me for saving their daughter. The Song family said they'd give me a huge sum of money. They even promised I could come to them for anything I need. In the future, my life of luxury is about to begin. What does failing the college entrance exam even matter? I pretended I still wanted to reason with her, but she cut me off urgently. The Song said that in a few days, once the young mistress is discharged from the hospital, they'll host a special celebration banquet. They're going to thank me properly in front of everyone. She handed me a black invitation card with gold foil lettering. Here, she said, I'll take you to see how the other half lives when the time comes. You'll know if I'm telling the truth once you see it for yourself. 3. Having successfully connected with the Song family, Runa didn't even bother showing up for the exam the next day. Before I left in the morning, I knocked on her door. Runa's mother peeked out, and a flicker of disdain crossed her face when she saw it was me. Off to your exam, Juno. Our Runa was exhausted from rescuing someone yesterday, so she won't be going today. It seems the whole family now sees the Song family as their fallback plan. Just before leaving, I overheard her mother muttering, nothing but a bookworm who only knows how to study. She'll never amount to anything. Just a couple of days later, Runa came to find me, all excited, saying the car from the Song family had arrived to take her to the banquet. I really didn't want to go, but Runa kept dragging me along. She kept saying she wanted to show me the world, but the smug look in her eyes was impossible to hide. She lived such a glamorous life in her past life. In this one, I won't be satisfied until she sees with her own eyes how successful I've become. Runa's greatest dream is to trample me underfoot just to feed her own vanity, remembering all the things the song family did to me in my past life. I swallowed my refusal and went along with Runa's wishes, accompanying her out. After all, I'm quite curious to see if Runa would still be so cheerful once she learns about the dark underbelly of the Song family. The banquet was held at the Grand Regal Hotel, the most luxurious venue in the heart of Yunqing. The moment she stepped out of the car, Runa was captivated by the hotel's opulence, her eyes betraying an unmistakable greed. She turned and saw my faint surprise, instantly putting on a nonchalant air before turning the tables. To mock me as a country bumpkin, Juno, wipe the drool off your chin. I'm the Song family's honored guest today, and I'm only bringing you along out of the goodness of my heart so you can see how the other half lives. Don't you dare embarrass me, holding up the hem of her dress and walking in on her high heels. She held her head high as if she had truly become a young lady of high society in that very moment. With her exaggerated puffy dress, high heels, and garish makeup, she waddled like a duck to keep her balance. Little did she know, in the eyes of everyone around her, she was nothing but a clown. Runa seemed completely oblivious to it all, thoroughly enjoying the praising glances from those around her. The head of the Song family, Finnick, smiled and beckoned to Runa the moment he saw her. Runa walked up to him with a smile, sweetly calling out, "Uncle Song," as if remembering something. She pulled me forward and introduced me proactively. "This is my good friend Juno." She heard I was attending the banquet today and absolutely insisted I bring her along to see how things are done. You don't mind, do you, Uncle? When Finnick's gaze shifted to me, Runa immediately grew tense. To make Runa's extraordinary aura stand out even more, I kept it simple today, just a plain white t-shirt and jeans with black-rimmed glasses, keeping my head down and looking completely unassuming. Finnick barely gave me a glance before losing interest, shifting his attention right back to Runa. "Of course not. You saved our Talia. Uncle would be more than happy for you to bring your friends over to play with her any time." I heard Runa breathe a sigh of relief in her mind. Phew, that was close. Thank goodness Uncle Song didn't treat Juno differently this time, like he did in our past life. She was completely at ease. 4. The party was well underway when the guest of honor finally made her entrance. Talia, in a stunning silver haute couture mermaid gown, looked absolutely breathtaking. Hea Mia presence made Runa look like a child, playing dress-up in her mother's clothes. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Finnick brought Talia over and patted her shoulder with a smile. "It's all thanks to Runa pulling you out of the river that day. Go on and give her your proper thanks." Runa was floating on air from Finnick's praise, completely oblivious to the scorn in Talia's eyes. All evening, Runa kept trying to strike up conversations with Talia, but the other girls' responses remained cool and indifferent. When the banquet ended, the Song family arranged a car to take Runa and me home. The whole ride back, Runa was silently ranting in her head. "That young mistress is really something. I don't know what she has to be so haughty about. If I hadn't risked my life to pull her out of the river, she'd be dead." She was bothered by Talia's cold attitude. I recognized the driver. He was from the Song family, but Runa didn't know that and just thought the Songs had arranged for a random driver. I deliberately chimed in. "Runa, Ms. Talia seems rather quiet today. Is she just naturally introverted? Runa rolled her eyes so hard they nearly disappeared, instinctively retorting, I think she's deliberately looking down on me. I'm their family savior. Her father treats me like an honored guest. What right does she have to look down on me and put on that little Miss Act 4? Seeing the driver's gaze fixed on Runa in the rearview mirror, I knew every word from tonight would be relayed verbatim to Talia. Runa is in for it. Now, 5. Just a couple of days later, the Song family showed up at her door with a whole entourage, presenting Runa with a hefty sum as a token of their gratitude. Media crews swarmed the scene, cameras flashing as they snapped away at Runa and Finnick. The story blew up online that very day, trending as the local hot topic. Runa came to show off her phone to me, boasting, Juno, look, everyone online is praising me for being both beautiful and kind-hearted. Companies are even reaching out, asking me to endorse their products. Do you know how much the family gave me today? 3 million. Your father couldn't earn that much in his entire lifetime, could he? My father is just an ordinary office worker making 7,000 a month. He really couldn't earn 3 million in a lifetime, but the Song family's money doesn't come without strings attached. I remained silent, which only convinced her that I was secretly seething with envy. Juno, I'm rich and famous now. I bet you're secretly green with envy, aren't you? Don't worry, we're good friends. I'll take you along to these kinds of events from now on. Who knows? Over time you might even my coattails and skim little off the Song family to help make ends meet. Runa was true to her word. After that, whenever Talia asked Runa out, Runa always tried to bring me along. At first, Ide refugia. She'd secretly curse me for being ungrateful in her heart, then happily go off to meet Talia. Every time she came back from a date, she'd loaded down with shopping bags, limited edition handbags, gold and silver jewelry, high-end cosmetics. She would always flaunt these things right in front of me. Look, Talia gave these to me. You didn't want to come with me, but if you had, maybe she would have given you something too, for my sake. Suddenly remembering something amusing from my past life, I changed my mind and blinked at Runa. Really? I could get some of these nice things too. Runa gave me her word, patting her chest for emphasis. So, when Talia invited Runa out again, I happily tagged along. 6. This time it was for the birthday of one of Talia's trust fund friends. They had booked out an entire villa at a resort, planning to party all night long. With me around, Runa put on airs, bossing me around to fetch without a break. I didn't argue back, happily obliging every time. I knew exactly how awful Talia and her crew were. I understood that the more compliant and spineless I acted, the less interesting I'd be to them. Sure enough, they barely glanced my way the entire night. The party was past its halfway point when a server came around to refill drinks. 2 people were horsing around and accidentally bumped into the server. The server stumbled, and most of the drink in their hand splashed right onto Runa. From my corner seat, I saw it clearly. Those 2 were definitely doing it on purpose. The waitress was frantically apologizing, but Runa just stood up and slapped her across the face. Do you have any idea how much this dress cost? You could never afford to pay for it if you ruined it. I knew all about that dress. She bought it on Taobao for a little over 2,000 yuan when she first got it. Runa even sent me a screenshot of the payment just to rub it in that a single dress of hers now cost as much as my family's entire monthly living expenses. A hush fell over the room. Even the two who had been roughhousing earlier sat down as everyone turned to watch the unfolding drama. The waitress, covering her face and on the verge of tears, pleaded, "It was a genuine accident. I swear. Please, let me take the dress to be dry cleaned." Runa was furious. "Take it off for dry cleaning? Are you deliberately trying to humiliate me? Do you have any idea who I am?" She declared, pointing at herself. "I am the one who saved Talia Song, the heiress of the wealthy Song family in Yanqing. Insulting me is an insult to the entire Song family. Fetch your manager this instant. I demand an explanation today." Talia absolutely hated how Runa kept throwing around the phrase life-saving benefactor. Her eyes turned icy. I was hiding in the corner, struggling to hold back my laughter. Who knows where Runa got the nerve to think she could represent the entire Song family's honor? Someone noticed Talia's darkening expression and intervened. "All right, it's a birthday party. Let's keep the mood light and not let a small thing spoil the fun for everyone." Runa rolled her eyes at the person. "Easy for you to say. It's not your dress that got ruined, is it? Come. Stand here and let me spill something on you. Let's see how gracious you are." Then she turned her head and saw Talia sitting in the middle of the crowd. "Talia, look at her. She has absolutely no respect for you." Talia stirred the ice in her glass, not even looking at her. "It's just a dress. I'll buy you a new one." Having gotten her way, Runa finally stopped harassing the server. Before letting them go, she smugly warned, "You got lucky today. Next time I see you, I'll make sure you get fired. To teach you a lesson." 7. Runa spent the whole night making a fool of herself, playing around in a dress stained with wine. On the way back, she clutched the new dress Talia had called to have delivered, grinning from ear to ear. To make up for the wrong she'd suffered, Talia gave her a new bag along with the dress, and I even got a gift out of it. Runa showed off to me. "See, I told you, Ms. Talia is loaded and clueless. Stick with me and you'll get your share of the goodies." She turned the bag over and over in her hands, unable to contain the delight on her face. I noticed a loose thread poking out from the bottom seam and reached to pinch it. Runa slapped my hand with a sharp crack, leaving an instant red mark. "Get your grubby hands off. This is a limited edition. You think you could afford to pay if you ruined it?" Her eyes were full of contempt when she looked at me. I had thought about warning her, but seeing the red mark on the back of my hand, I dismissed the idea and didn't shatter her beautiful illusion. After that, I was no longer willing to go out with Runa. Talia didn't get angry with Runa over the birthday party incident. In fact, their relationship grew even closer. All summer, Talia would often pull up in a flashy sports car outside Runa's house with her rowdy friends in tow, shouting for her to come out and hang. Every time Runa came home, she was laden with beautifully wrapped boxes and shopping bags. The haul she brought back from Talia just kept growing. Everyone around was green with envy. Even the little kid from across the hall, who just started kindergarten, piped up to his grandma in a tiny voice, "When I grow up, I want to be rich." Family's favorite charity case. Just like big sister Runa, even Runa's mother had started putting on airs lately, acting all high and mighty. Whenever she ran into my parents, "Our daughter is kind-hearted and accomplished," which is why the song family took a liking to her, and she even became good friends with their heiress. Our Runa says the songs are going to place her in a senior management position at their company with a salary of at least a few million a year. Not like your Juno, so stubborn and set in her ways. What good is being book smart? She'll still end up working for someone else her whole life. 8. That kind of talk is just to stroke their own family's ego. Only I knew the truth. Talia never saw Runa as a friend. She treated her like a dog she could summon at will, because the exact same thing happened to me in my past life. Back then, under the pretense of repaying a life debt, Talia kept inviting me out to hang with her circle of trust fund kids. I was flattered and thought this heiress was down to earth, so I considered her my closest confidant. It was only later that I realized she just saw me as a source of amusement for her clique. Those trust fund kids looked down on everyone from their high horse. How could they ever truly respect an ordinary person? Talia pretended to be my friend to my face, but behind my back, she was constantly putting me down. Every time, she'd use games as an excuse to deliberately humiliate me, then join the others in circling around to laugh at me, calling me delusional. All those luxury items and fancy jewelry she gave me were actually deliberate fakes. An ordinary person with little exposure to high-end goods would never be able to tell the difference. At first, I naively treasured the gifts from my friend, only bringing them out for important occasions like the Song family's banquet, wearing Talia's fake jewelry and carrying that counterfeit bag. I was always met with mocking glances from those around me. God only knows how much. They must be laughing at me behind my back. Even when the Song family finally got me a position in the company, it was all for show, a high-paying management title. In reality, I was just Talia's personal assistant, doing her grunt work, taking the fall for her mistakes, and bearing the brunt of her scoldings. Talia always puts on the airs of the privileged Song family heiress, but only I know the venomous, ruthless snake she truly is behind closed doors. She couldn't stand the thought of a mere commoner like me outshining her, so she subjected me to endless, underhanded torment. Back when Runa poisoned me, I was already on the verge of a complete breakdown from Talia's abuse. 1,000 times a day, I wished I could just jump off the Song Corporation building and end it all. Talia threatened my parents' safety to force me to stay by her side, to be used and exploited. All the projects I worked on through late nights and overtime ended up being credited to her, while any trouble or blame fell squarely on me. Every morning when I opened my eyes, I would sigh and wonder why I wasn't dead yet. Later, when Runa poisoned my drink, I could tell from the first sip that something was off, but I gritted my teeth and drank it anyway. At that point, I truly didn't want to live anymore. Right up until my dying breath, I regretted saving Talia. 9. In July, when the college entrance exam results came out, I was admitted to University A with outstanding scores. My parents were overjoyed and threw a grand celebration banquet for me. Runa came, too, and handed me an exquisitely wrapped gift box. She couldn't stand me being in the spotlight. Her mouth offered congratulations, but the disdain in her eyes was impossible to hide. I opened the gift box right in front of her. Inside was a luxury handbag, its enormous logo on the front screaming the brand name for all to see. She said, smugly, "Juno, don't say I'm not a good friend. Do you even know what brand this is? This single bag costs more than your Entire years living expenses. Never mind. You're such a country bumpkin. You wouldn't understand even if I explained it. I know my stuff. After all these years by Talia's side, I've seen my fair share of luxury goods. If not 1,000, then at least 800. I could tell at a glance that this bag, just like the one from the last birthday party, was a fake. Runa was still smugly telling me how much effort she'd put into picking out this gift for me. But her inner thoughts betrayed her true feelings. What kind of lousy heiress is this? Talia, trying to pass off this knockoff on me? She's just trying to insult me on purpose. Whatever. It's not like that. Idiot Juno would know the difference. She's probably never even seen the real thing. She's likely over the moon right now. Runa is smarter than I was in my past life, figuring out Talia's hypocrisy sooner than I ever did. But it seems she still can't bear to let go of the Song family support, pretending to know nothing and continuing to play nice with Talia, just as she wished. I put on a smile and thanked her. Runa, you'd better step up your game. I'm waiting to see you and Talia tear each other apart. Their hollow friendship lasted until August, when one night Runa didn't return until the early hours. This time, she wasn't dropped off by Talia's usual red sports car. A car pulled up downstairs and a young man stepped out, gallantly opening the door for Runa, hidden behind the upstairs curtain. I watched as Runa got out, hugged the man, kissed him, and only then said goodbye, before staggering unsteady up the stairs. After Runa left, the man stood under the streetlight for a long time, not moving on, as if sensing something. He looked up in my direction. I quickly ducked back behind the curtain. The moment I saw the man's face clearly, my heart skipped a beat. It was Talia's fiancé, Jackson. 10 in their past life, the Song and Liu families arranged a marriage alliance, and Talia's intended match was Jackson. Talia was intensely jealous. She looked down on Jackson, yet paradoxically considered him her property. If he so much as glanced at someone twice, that person would immediately face Talia's retaliation. Jackson was a restless playboy to begin with. Upon learning of Talia's behavior, he deliberately flirted with everyone in sight, provoking Talia into bullying others without restraint. In my past life, I suffered a great deal because of those two bastards. Thanks to that scumbag, Jackson. He came to the office to pick up Talia and deliberately whistled at me, right in front of her. That very night, Talia had someone drug me and deliver me to an old man's bed. If I hadn't smashed a vase, grabbed a shard, and threatened to kill myself to escape, I probably would have died even sooner. Back then, I didn't know it was Talia's doing. I just thought I was unlucky. It wasn't until I stumbled upon Talia, meeting with the very people who had drugged me, arranging for them to target someone new, that I knew for sure she was the mastermind. If Talia ever caught Jackson so much as glancing at another girl, that girl would face her wrath. Now that Runa and Jackson are all flirty and close, I dread to think how badly it's going to end for her. University started in early September. Stepping onto campus, I was immersed in an academic atmosphere I'd never experienced in my past life. I threw myself into my studies. My campus life was incredibly fulfilling, allowing me to push thoughts of Runa and Talia to the back of my mind, at least for a while. When the first semester ended and I went home for winter break, I saw Runa again. Half a year had passed, and she was almost unrecognizable. Her face looked slightly different. She must have had some work done recently, dressed like a wealthy socialite. She wore a tight-fitting dress with high heels and an expensive fur coat draped over her shoulders. She looked nothing like a girl who was only 20. Runa came over to chat with me in the evening. I've been away from home for the past 6 months, and with her pent-up urge to show off, she texts me every other day on WeChat, flaunting her new gifts and her ever-growing bank balance. I pretended to be swamped with schoolwork and never replied. Now that I'm back, she wouldn't possibly pass up such a perfect chance to make me jealous. Juno, it's been 6 months. How's university life treating you? Have you met anyone special on campus? I kept a polite smile on my face. I've been swamped with my studies. Who has time for dating? Her smug expression grew even more pronounced. Oh, right. I forgot you're such a bookworm. Let me tell you, the guys at university are also average. Nothing like my boyfriend. If you ever decide you want to settle down, just let me know. I'll definitely find you a well-connected, loaded boyfriend from my circle. He'll be generous, and I guarantee you'll be set for life. I immediately latched onto the key part of what she said. Are you seeing someone? 11? Just as I suspected, Runa is seeing Jackson behind Talia's back. What really blows my mind is that they've been sneaking around for months, and Talia never had a clue. Ive experience tales controles. Nature firsthand in a past life. She's anything but oblivious. She toyed with the diamond ring on her finger. A high society princess like Talia thinks the world revolves around her. What does she really know about what a man wants? All it took was a little crook of my finger, and Jackson fell right into my lap. I'm not afraid of her finding out. And even if she does, what's she going to do? She'll just have to suck it up. She lowered her head with a smile, gently touching her belly. I'm carrying the Lou family's first grandson. Jackson says they've been a single line of succession for 5 generations. This child is enough to secure my wealth and status for a lifetime. He promised me he'd find the right moment to break off the engagement with the Song family and marry me. Juno, by the time you come back next, I might already be Mrs. Liu. At the same time, her smug and her voice echoed in my ears. That fool Juno. In her past life, she had a golden opportunity like Jackson right in front of her and didn't seize it, choosing instead to be Talia's lackey. What future is there in groveling to the Song family for their occasional scraps of charity? I'm going to marry into a wealthy family and achieve a genuine leap in social class. Ambition is a good thing, but when it outpaces your capabilities, it only leads to disaster. I smiled with genuine sincerity and said, I wish you success. Runa said dismissively as she left. Juno, I know you're jealous of me deep down, but that's just how it is. I'm simply better and more accomplished than you. You'll just have to spend your whole life looking up at the life I lead. Just as she had hoped. On New Year's Eve, I ran into Runa downstairs. She was all dressed up and ready to head out. Juno, guess what I'm doing tonight? She said, waving a black invitation in her hand. With a triumphant smile, Jackson has chartered an entire cruise ship. He says he's going to give me a New Year's Eve I'll never forget. I bet he's planning to propose tonight. She gently touched her slightly rounded belly. You might just see the headlines tomorrow morning, announcing that I've become Mrs. Liu. I didn't stop her, just smiled and reminded her that she could call me if she ran into any trouble. She scoffed at me then turned and walked away with a sway in her step. 12 at 1 o'clock in the morning. I was jolted awake by the insistent ringing of the telephone. I pulled out my phone and saw a string of unfamiliar numbers on the screen. I answered, and Runa's panicked, gasping voice came through. Juno, Juno, help me. Get someone quick. What's wrong? I asked, with a light chuckle. Didn't you go off to have a New Year's Eve you'd never forget? She was sobbing and trembling. They're all liars, all monsters. There was never any proposal. Jackson and Talia were in on it together, tricking me. They beat me, and so many people on that cruise ship tortured me. I lost the baby. I lost so much blood. You said I could come to you for help. Call the police. Hurry. I'll pay you. I'll give you anything. Just send someone to save me. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. A burst of static came through the line, followed by a cooing laugh. The little mouse is hiding. Better stay hidden, or we'll catch you and gobble you up. Then came Runa's piercing scream, and the call was abruptly cut off. Leaning against the headboard, I clutched my phone and sank into a long, deep reverie. When Runa mentioned this afternoon that she'd be on the cruise ship tonight, I knew this was coming. In my past life, on a bitterly cold winter night just like this one, Talia brought me onto a cruise ship. All of Talia's rich kid friends were there, and the moment they saw me, their eyes lit up with predatory glee. It was only later that I learned of their triennial tradition, chartering an entire cruise ship to play a twisted game of cat and mouse. In that past life, I was the designated mouse, and everyone else was a cat. That night was a carnival for those demons, but a living nightmare for me alone. My only goal was to run, hide, and evade capture for as long as I could on that ship. There were 10 of them against just me, and I had a tracking device locked on my ankle. They finally caught me, chained my neck, forced me to crawl on the ground like a dog, and branded me with a red-hot iron. They spent the entire early morning hours torturing me, even filming my agony with a camera. I was lucky to survive that night. The song family knew what Talia had done. They threw some money at me like it was charity, calling it compensation when it was really just hush money. I refused it and fought to go to the police. That's when Talia pulled out the video from that night, threatening to send the footage of my humiliation to my parents. Back in those years, my father had been diagnosed with a heart condition. He needed money for treatment and couldn't handle any shock or stress. Do you think your dad would drop dead on the spot if he saw his precious little girl stripped naked, on her knees, crying and licking our feet while we trampled all over her for money? Left with no choice, I swallowed my pain. From then on, I lived in torment, haunted by nightmares day and night. Runa spent her whole life dreaming of taking my place, and now she's finally gotten her wish. This is the path she chose for herself. Whether it leads to fortune or ruin, she must bear the consequences. 13 an hour later, I went to the police station with the recording and filed a report on Runa's behalf. At 4 o'clock in the morning, the drifting cruise ship was intercepted. Police stormed aboard, rescuing Runa, who lay unconscious in a pool of her own blood. Talia, Jackson, and their entire group were caught in the act and taken into custody. In the ensuing chaos, I managed to snatch the video camera that had fallen to the floor on Lunar New Year's Day. A shocking scandal involving the elite suddenly erupted online. Dozens of young scions from Yunjing's wealthy families, led by the Song and Lu clans, were revealed to have been secretly deriving pleasure from torturing ordinary people. The leaked video shockingly showed Runa being tormented by Talia and her group on the cruise ship. In the video, Runa let out a piercing scream, clutching her stomach as blood seeped from her lower body. The child she was carrying was brutally stomped out by Talia in her high heels. The torment didn't stop there. In the footage, Talia yanked Runa's hair and sneered, still dreaming of marrying into wealth with that baby. Are you? What you don't know is that the child in your belly was never Jackson's. I went to great lengths to find a homeless man for you that night. Jackson stood by, watching her with a look of utter contempt, and did not deny a word. The alliance between the Lu and Song families will absolutely not be broken by a lowly woman like you. Wake up and stop dreaming, enduring both physical and mental torment. Runa let out a blood-curdling scream. She struggled desperately to attack Talia, only to be kicked to the ground by Jackson. What followed was a brutal and merciless beating. The video caused a massive uproar online. The Song and Lu families launched emergency PR campaigns, frantically spending money to suppress the buzz, but they couldn't keep up with the speed at which netizens devoured the drama. Some people even dug up the previous news coverage of the Song family's high-profile visit to thank Runa for saving a life, only to discover that the girl being abused in the video was the very same lifesaver. In just one day, the market value of the Song and Lu family companies evaporated by tens of billions. Everyone seized this opportunity to launch fierce condemnations, pressuring the authorities to severely punish this group of lawless rich kids. The 6th day of the Lunar New Year. Clear skies. A good day to go out. I went to the hospital to visit Runa. 14, after several days of emergency treatment, Runa finally pulled through and was transferred from the ICU to a regular ward. However, because those rich kids went too far that night, Runa was covered in injuries, and the doctor said one of her legs was broken. When I arrived, she was lying in bed, her face swollen like a balloon. The moment she saw me, she lashed out bitterly. Juno, it's all your fault. Why didn't you bring the police to save me sooner? If you had come earlier, I wouldn't have suffered so much. I wouldn't be in this state. It's all your fault. I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. She snapped. What are you laughing at? You came here on purpose to see me humiliated, didn't you? I always knew you were jealous of me deep down. Now that I'm down on my luck, you just couldn't wait to come and gloat. It seems the lesson she learned on the ship wasn't enough. I reached out and pressed my hand against the wound on her cheek. The freshly formed scab immediately gave way, oozing blood, and the pain made Runa grimace and bare her teeth. Juno, let go. Have you lost your mind? I asked her coldly. Does it hurt? Good. It should hurt. You should be thanking me for calling the police and leading them to the yacht to rescue you. If we'd waited until morning, you might have been a corpse floating at sea with no chance to feel anything ever again. She instinctively wanted to argue back, but couldn't find the words. Yes, you're right. I did it on purpose. I planned it from the very beginning. Her expression twisted into terror, her pupils trembling, even the muscles in her face quivering. You, as if struck by a thought of something utterly horrifying. Her throat tightened. How did you lead the police to the yacht? It seems she had also realized something was off. Talia's yacht was docked today, very secluded, abandoned harbor. Without an insider's tip, the police would likely have searched until dawn without finding the exact location. I answer question with a question. Runa, that life of luxury you yearned for in your past life, do you still enjoy it now? Well, I should be thanking you. The cage I fought tooth and nail to escape in my last life is the very one you're now gleefully waltzing into. 15 Runa could only move her head, yet even in that state, she thrashed and strained, desperate to lunge at me. You Juno, you set me up. I hope you die a horrible death. You ruined me. Why can't you stand to see me happy? I hate you. Juno, I'll haunt you from beyond the grave. You see, people like Runa never realize their own mistakes. They always instinctively shift the blame onto others. But it's fine. I suppose she has her whole life ahead of her to reflect on and regret every single choice she's made. I easily covered her cursing mouth. Runa, you've got it all wrong. It wasn't me who ruined you. You did that to yourself. Talia was the one who laid hands on you. Jackson was the one who deceived you. They hired a vagrant to take advantage of you when you were drunk, treated you like a dog, tortured you, and recorded it all for their amusement. That was them. They're the ones who destroyed you. I warned you before you left. I was the one who called the police in the middle of the night to save you. You should be thanking me and hating them. As I spoke, the hatred in her eyes grew more intense, but this time it wasn't directed at me. I said with a sorrowful tone, Runa, you and I used to be the best of friends. We grew up together, went to school together, so close we shared a bed and ate from the same bowl. We shouldn't have become enemies. In my past life, I went through the same thing you did that night. I even had my suicide note drafted. You have no idea how much I envied you. I managed to squeeze out a couple of tears at just the right moment. My words stirred up Runa's memories, and a flicker of confusion passed through her eyes. Sensing her hostility towards me had lessened, I continued to coax her gently. You've been by Talia's side for so long. Has it never crossed your mind why a wealthy heiress like her ended up drowning that day with no one coming to her rescue? You probably don't know this, but children from wealthy families learn to swim from a very young age. Every 3 years, Talia stages the same cat and mouse game you went through. She deliberately chooses the day of the college entrance exams to drown in the river near the school, only to lure in a naive girl like you as the target for her next game. So, Runa, it's not your fault. They exploited your kindness, lured you with their wealth, used you for their amusement, and then tried to ruin your life. I spoke with absolute conviction. Runa's expression shifted through a series of emotions before finally settling into one of intense hatred. I leaned in close to her ear and whispered, How would you like a chance to get your own revenge? She stared at me for a full 30 seconds before clenching her jaw and nodding. 16 bowing to public pressure. Talia, Jackson, and the rest of their group were all convicted. Talia and Jackson, the masterminds, were sentenced to 5 and 7 years respectively, just when the Song and Liu families thought the matter was over. 2 middle-aged couples suddenly came forward, jointly accusing Talia and Jackson of murder. They held evidence, photos and videos, all from the same cruise ship, showing Talia and Jackson leading a hunting game. The only difference was it happened much earlier, even before Runa. Talia used the same method. She would pretend to need help, lure kind-hearted peers into rescuing her, befriend them, and finally deliver them to the cruise ship on New Year's Eve every single time. The Song and Liu families leveraged their influence to cover up the crimes of these two beasts, disguising the deaths of innocent victims as accidents. They even established a mutual aid foundation to help the victims' families rebuild their lives, making them feel grateful. In the process, how hypocritical and disgusting. In my past life, after the cruise ship incident, I realized I wasn't the only victim. I had been secretly investigating the matter, but just as I was getting somewhere, Runa poisoned me. Fortunately, on the day I brought the police to rescue Runa, I managed to seize the evidence Talia had hidden in amidst the chaos. The reason I waited until after their first trial to hand the evidence over to the victims was simply to make the Song and Liu families think the matter was settled and let their guard down. This time, I'm truly aiming to finish them off for good. The actions of Talia and her circle completely ignited public outrage, with countless netizens spontaneously boycotting all businesses associated with the Song and Liu families. This time, they are truly finished for good. 17 The Song and Liu families have fallen from power. Talia and Jackson had their sentences extended. Again, they'll basically never see the outside of a prison cell for the rest of their lives. Did you really think I'd let them off that easily? Prison is too good for them. I promised Runa she'd get to settle the score herself. Talia and Jackson are the only heirs of the Song and Liu families. They've been shielding their little monsters all this time. You think they'd just let their precious darlings rot in prison forever? So, a year later, once the public outrage had died down a bit, the Song and Liu families spent nearly their entire fortunes bribing a hospital to issue psychiatric evaluations. They had the two transferred from prison to a mental institution. The plan was to wait a few years for the heat to die down, then quietly send them abroad. After a decade or so, when everyone had forgotten the whole affair, they could be brought back to resume their lives as the young lady and young master of the house. Perfect. Upon receiving the tip-off, Runa bought her way into that psychiatric hospital. On the third night of her employment, she set the psychiatric hospital ablaze. Talia and Jackson had just been transferred to the asylum before they could even feel a moment of relief. Runa's vengeful fire reduced them to two charred corpses. I just never imagined that Runa would also perish in that inferno. It wasn't until the autopsy report was released, showing all three had sustained various injuries prior to the fire, that police theorized a violent struggle had taken place. It seems Runa went all out against the other two, but ended up getting hurt in the fight herself, ultimately sealing everyone's fate. 18. The case was ultimately closed as an accident. The Song and Liu families were dissatisfied with this outcome and insisted on blaming the hospital for its poor oversight. Infuriated, the hospital's top brass released records showing that the Song and Liu families had paid them to issue false certificates. This landed even Finnick and Jackson's father in legal trouble. The company was gone, the fortune was gone, and his only daughter was gone. Under this series of blows, Finnick developed a terminal illness and ultimately chose to seek medical parole. Seeing the latest news of Finnick, hair gone white, back hunched, weeping so hard he could barely breathe at Talia's funeral, was a world away from the arrogant man who once tried to buy my silence, the knot of resentment that had coiled inside me since my rebirth finally loosened a little before I could savor the sight for long. My academic advisor's call came through. Juno, the list for this year's guaranteed postgraduate placements is out, and your name is on it. Get to my office right now to fill out the paperwork. I stood up, casually deleted that photo of Finnick, and closed the app. Oh, right. I almost forgot. My school life is so hectic right now. I really don't have time to pay attention to these trivial things. Online. End of text. Story 2. My sister shoved me right in front of a well-dressed lady. Sister, you go with them. I want to give this opportunity to you. Her voice was brimming with excitement and urgency. The lady's gaze shifted to my somewhat thin and sallow face. Would you like to come home with me? It was then that I snapped back to reality. My sister and I were reborn and returned to the day we were to be adopted from the orphanage. That year, I was 7 years old, and my sister was 6. The noble woman before me was the wicked woman my sister spoke of in our past life, Margaret. In our previous life, my sister walked right up to Margaret, tilted her head up, blinked her big, grape-like eyes, and cooed sweetly, "Mom, I want to be your daughter. Please, take me with you." And just like that, my sister was the first to be taken in by Margaret and adopted into the Lou family, where she was renamed Lilith Lou. She thought she had stepped into high society, eagerly anticipating the life of a wealthy family's little princess. She spent her days fantasizing about romantic novel scenarios, imagining a love story between a wealthy heir and an adopted daughter, but she never expected her parents to be so cold toward her. And Kellen, the Lou family's son, was even worse, showing no affection whatsoever, treating her with more indifference than a stranger. Still, delusional, she even tried to seduce Kellen. After Richard and Margaret passed away, Kellen immediately kicked her out of the house. Not only was there no romance, but I didn't get a single penny out of it. Meanwhile, I was adopted that same day, a bit later, by an ordinary teacher's family who came to the orphanage. Since childhood, I've been known as both a beauty and a top student, excelling academically. I tested into the nation's top university and dedicated myself to cutting-edge tech research. Later, the heir of the Gu family publicly pursued me, causing quite the scandal all over town. On the very day she was thrown out of the house, the city's digital billboards were broadcasting my extravagant wedding to Damon, the heir of the Gu family. My sister, overwhelmed with rage and regret, drove her car into me in a fit of hatred. Only then did I realize how deeply she regretted her past choices. Given a second chance, she didn't hesitate to push me straight toward Margaret, playing right into my sister's hands. I said to Margaret, "I do, Mother," just before leaving. My sister rushed to my side and whispered in my ear, "Sis, this time Damon is mine. I'll make sure you taste the misery of my past life. Get ready to be kicked out of the wealthy family." The dean gave my sister a strange look and muttered, "Lilith has always had high standards. Why would she let her sister have the rich guy this time? Has she finally grown a conscience? No wonder the director would say that. I always made sure my younger sister never went hungry, giving her whatever food I had. She grew up fair and well-nourished, while I became sallow, thin, and malnourished. The director found it strange, but it made perfect sense to me. It wasn't out of a guilty conscience. It was pure malice. She took all my past care for granted and developed a selfish nature that completely disregards others' feelings. She believes my academic excellence in my past life was solely because I was adopted by a teacher couple, grew up in a harmonious family environment, and was raised with love. However, true hell awaits her, since she wants to live my previous life so badly. I'll grant her wish, Margaret, and I got into the Rolls Royce. As we reached the orphanage gate, through the half-closed car window, I caught a fleeting, triumphant smile on my sister's face. A wave of satisfaction washed over me. My dear sister has no idea what kind of days await her, does she? The car soon pulled into a lavish estate. I had been here in my past life. I was used as a bargaining chip for my sister to show off. But in this life, I'll make the most of what's here to live my best life. This will be your home from now on. Starting today, your name is Isla. Lou. Margaret led me into the house, and I deliberately acted a bit uneasy. Margaret patted my shoulder, reassuringly, not minding my tattered, dusty clothes. A man was sitting on the living room sofa, and I recognized him. Richard, a business tycoon whose financial prowess rivals that of the Gu family. Just then, a bright and handsome young man descended the stairs. It was Kellen. He's 3 years older than me. The father and son were rather aloof. Richard gave me a faint smile. Make yourself at home. We're family now. Kellen just shot me a brief glance, frowned, and turned to go upstairs. I don't really care about their attitude toward me right now. I just want a comfortable environment where I can grow. Margaret prepared a room for me that's just as big as Kellen's, decorated in a light blue style that I really like. But in my past life, I had been in this room before. It once belonged to Lilith Lou, and it had a very pink, princess-themed decor. The place was overflowing with exquisite jewelry and lavish gowns. This clearly shows how deeply Margaret cared for her adopted daughter. I truly can't fathom why my sister kept calling her adoptive mother a vicious woman in her past life. How did she manage to screw up so badly that she ended up with nothing? I attended the same elite elementary school as Kellen. Don't you dare tell anyone you know me. The young boy tossed his bangs, carrying his backpack with one hand, a defiant look on his face. With that, he immediately turned and got into the car, but didn't close the car door, waiting for me. Okay, big brother. Kellen's eyes widened. And don't call me big brother, either. I was held back a year at the orphanage, so I started school in first grade. As expected, I ran into my sister, Lilith Chin. In our past life, we attended the same school. The joy she had when we first met at the orphanage was gone, and the light in her eyes had dimmed. When they saw me, they bared their teeth with a snarl, eyes filled with resentment. Isla Chin, did you do this on purpose? You've been reborn, too, haven't you? You deliberately pushed me into the fire. I tossed back her retort. My name is Isla Lou. If you're out of your mind, go get yourself treated. I walked past her into the classroom. Lilith Chin stared intently at me, trying to read something from my expression. I wasn't in the mood to play games with her. With a blank expression, I walked to the farthest corner of the classroom and sat down. In my past life, I was adopted by the Chin family and became their only daughter to outsiders. We were a family of scholars, both Parents were teachers dedicated to educating others, and my life seemed perfect, but behind closed doors, I endured daily torment. They assigned me problems far beyond my level every day, withholding meals if I couldn't solve them. Beneath my clothes, scars that never healed told a darker story. Sometimes, when they were in a bad mood, they would lock me in a pitch black, cramped storage room. The longest stretch was 2 days and a night, ever. Since then, I've been afraid to turn off the lights or stay in the dark. Even the slightest glimmer of light brings me comfort. I endured it silently, never daring to slack off in my studies. I was too young back then to resist, forced to accept their coercive arrangements time and again. It wasn't until college that I gathered enough evidence to take them to court and sever ties completely. But just one day before I planned to expose everything, my dear sister ran me over, leaving me battered and broken. By some mercy from above, I was given a second chance. Ever since I came to the Liu family, my life has improved a hundredfold compared to my previous existence. Only then did I realize that all of Lilith Chin's accusations against the Liu family in her past life were completely fabricated. They weren't particularly warm toward me, but they never mistreated me either. My living standards, food, clothing, and expenses were exactly the same as Kellen's. They've always cared about my well-being and never pressured me to achieve any particular level of success. After several peaceful years together, Kellen's attitude shifted from "don't call me brother" to "you must only call me brother from now on." I only found out by chance that Kellen has emotional blunting disorder. The reason they adopted from the orphanage was because Margaret sustained injuries during childbirth that left her unable to conceive again. The Liu parents are usually very busy. On the doctor's advice, Kellen takes his medication as prescribed, and they also thought it would be good to find him a playmate. At first, Margaret was indeed drawn to the more lively and adorable younger sister, but Margaret immediately noticed the reluctance in the little girl's eyes, so she ended up choosing me instead. Now, after being pampered by the Liu family, I no longer bear any resemblance to my former self. But Lilith Chin was different. Ever since elementary school, her focus in class was entirely on me. She'd often glare at me with this eerie, unsettling look. The coursework in elementary and middle school was no challenge for her. But once she hit high school, Lilith Chin's complexion grew increasingly pale, and for a while she became so thin she was almost unrecognizable. Her grades were barely passing. The Chin couple probably feared outsiders would catch on, so they didn't torment her to death. Lilith Chin kept pushing through the pain, clinging to the belief that getting into university would free her from the Chin family, just like it did for me in my past life, and lead her to the Gu family's heir. She's also waiting for the day I get thrown out by the Liu family. But heaven doesn't favor those who reap without sowing. What right does she have to stand at the pinnacle? She witnessed the scene of the entire Liu family seeing me off for the college entrance exam. She also saw me being the first to exit the exam hall, giving interviews to reporters, and sharing a heartwarming photo with the rest of the Liu family. Through the crowd, I saw her wave at me as if she wanted to say something. Given her academic performance, I doubt will end up at the same way toward her alone. Lilith Chin had dark, unmistakable circles under her eyes, sunken sockets, and a venomous expression. For a moment, it felt like I was seeing a glimpse of Her past self. The same terrifying look she had in the car. I remained calm and composed. What is it? Lilith chins, face contorted with undisguised malice. How dare you live so happily? You should have died with mom and dad. How dare you steal my life? They were my parents. As she spoke, she raised her arm to strike me. My pupils trembled violently as I covered the scar on my arm. I didn't flinch, and her slap never reached my face. It was Kellen, standing tall like a bamboo stalk beside me. He intercepted Lilith Chin's swinging hand, glaring coldly at Lilith Chin. What do you think you're doing? Lilith Chin broke free from the grip in disbelief. Brother, you're actually taking her. Sighed. Kellen scoffed. She's my sister. Who else should I help? You. Stunned by the remark, Lilith Chin cried. I'm your sister, Brother Kellen. I am Lilith. Kellen recoiled 2 steps at the address, still managing to pull me along. Cease. Let's get out of here. There's something foul in this place. I stayed silent, letting him lead me away. Lilith Chin's words brought back memories of that fire I never want to speak of again. I smiled and said, the mom and dad Lilith Chin refers to our biological parents. They were ordinary workers, but we lived a fairly happy life. Dad would occasionally bring home 2 delicate little cakes for us after work. Mom would braid our hair into pretty styles every day, buy us beautiful dresses, and walk us to school together. But I just can't figure out why they suddenly changed. My sister is sweet and then loves to cling to Dad, coaxing him into making me give up my share of cake for her. My sister is charming and loves to cuddle up to Mom, persuading us to play pretend where she's the princess and I'm the maid. Over time, when Dad came home from work with 2 little cakes for us, he'd give both to my sister, and I'd only get what she couldn't finish. Mother no longer braided my hair. From then on, I would braid my sister's hair first before doing my own. My sister's pretty clothes, once she no longer wanted them, would eventually be passed down to me after they'd grown worn. I resisted. I cried. I threw tantrums. All I got in return were scornful looks and mocking words from my parents. Lilith is your little sister. Why can't you cut her some slack? She's so adorable, and you can't even string a sentence together. But Mom and Dad, I wasn't always like this. Every futile protest only made me withdraw further into silence. Maybe I'm the one you changed. Mom and Dad didn't favor me as much. They showered more affection on my adorable little sister, and that was okay. That's what I believed when I was 5. One day, my sister insisted I play her favorite game with her, the maid serving the princess. The maid had to personally make pastries for the princess. I can't do it, standing frozen at the kitchen doorway. And so, I was scolded by my parents again. It's just acting. Why are you being so dramatic? Didn't we teach you this before? I had no choice but to drag a small stool over and sit by the stove, turned on the gas valve. Instead of a flame, there was a hissing sound, accompanied by a pungent odor. I had no idea what it was. Frozen in place, too afraid to move, my sister came in, waving a doll in her hand. A wave of perfume masked the pungent smell coming from the gas stove. I had no idea how to light the fire. After hesitating for a long time, I finally decided to ask Mom for help. Mom, I just couldn't get the hang of it. Mom rolled her eyes. So clueless. Wonder who they take after. Dad stood up and glanced around. Where did Lilith go? I said. In the kitchen. Dad frowned and followed Mom into the kitchen, muttering under his breath. The kitchen's so dangerous. Hope Lilith doesn't get burned. So they actually knew how risky it was. Then why did you let me in? I followed them inside, and the kitchen felt a bit cramped with 4 people. I stepped back out. Maybe it'd be less crowded with just 3. Just before turning away, I noticed the microwave was on. Looked like my sister's doll was inside. I had only taken a few steps when I heard a violent explosion from the kitchen. Flames instantly engulfed the entire kitchen. Finally, my father, engulfed in flames, pushed my sister out. Both my sister and I were completely stunned. It wasn't until I heard my sister's heart-wrenching sobs that I snapped out of it, grabbing her hand as we fled the house together. Our elderly neighbor called the police for us. The moment the fire was extinguished, seeing my parents' charred remains, I felt nothing but confusion about the future and a strange sense of relief. I've never been a good child. That's what I thought when I was 6 years old. Isla Lu, are you even listening to me? A sharp knock on the head from Kellen snapped me out of my daze. Only then did I realize I was already sitting in the car on my way home. Seeing the slight concern on Kellen's face, I forced a smile and made up an excuse. I'm just a bit tired. Kellen averted his gaze. TCH, just cry if you want to. There's no shame in not doing well on the exam. His emotional detachment has improved a lot. He's learned to care about his family and about me. I knew he was trying to distract me. It's okay. That fire feels like a lifetime ago. 2 lifetimes even. That year at the orphanage, my sister kept blaming me, saying I was the one who caused our parents' deaths in the fire. But was it really me? Lost in guilt and doubt, I unconsciously took on the responsibilities of an older sister. I gave her all the meals provided by the institution and the clothes donated by the community. A whole year passed in this daze until Margaret and the Chin couple arrived. From then on, I finally had enough to eat. That's what I thought when I was 7. Little did I know, even after moving to a new environment, I still rarely had a full meal. But at least, I wasn't the dull child my mother spoke of. I was clever and hardworking. On the day my college entrance exam results came out, the Liu family threw a small celebration. For me, they're not the type who enjoy crowds, but they're dying to show off. Their brilliant daughter, even Kellen, didn't get this kind of special treatment because I'm this year's national science top scorer. Just like in my past life, out of kindness, the Liu family invited the Chens. They knew I had a biological sister. They hoped she would witness this glorious moment of mine. They thought she'd be proud of me, becoming the top science student, but they were wrong. At the victory banquet, I met the Chin couple for the first time in my life. I didn't need a mirror to know my face had lost all color. I must have looked downright pale. Kellen noticed something was off and reached for my hand. So warm. Holding my hand, he led me into the hall. Step by step, my heart gradually settled. Just as Kellen and I reached Richard and Margaret, we heard a dull thud. The smiling faces around us all turned toward the sound, only to see a girl kneeling about 3 or 4 meters away from us. She's my sister, Lilith Chin. The smiles around us instantly turned into expressions of either awkwardness or amusement. Kellen narrowed his long, phoenix-like eyes. Is that the filthy thing that tried to hit you the other day? Before I could answer, Margaret looked utterly horrified. Margaret pulled me aside with concern, looking me over. What happened? Was Isla bullied? I shook my head and smiled at Margaret. No, my brother stepped in for me. Richard glared at Lilith Chin, who was still kneeling on the ground. Young lady, this is not the place for you to cause trouble. Lilith Chin suddenly looked up, smoothing her slightly disheveled hair, revealing a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Dad, it's me, Lilith. I'm your real daughter. Please save me. They're going to beat me to death. Whispers filled the air all around. Richard, Margaret, and Kellen wore identical expressions, their brows deeply furrowed. Richard continued, "You're Isla's sister, Lilith Chin. You're certainly not our daughter." The Liu family had never laid eyes on Lilith Chin before, except for Margaret, kneeling right off the bat and randomly claiming someone as her father gave them an awful impression of Lilith Chin. Kellen stepped forward, completely blocking me from view. "Oh, so you're Lilith Chin. How dare you try to hit your sister last time, and now you want to take her home? Dream on." Lilith Chin was completely devastated, collapsing onto the cold floor. The Chin couple, who entered just a moment later, turned grim at the sight. Mabel feigned concern as she helped Lilith Chin to her feet. "Lilith, is the pressure of the college entrance exams getting to you? Come on, get up. Today is your sister's celebration party." I saw Mabel's fingers digging into Lilith Chen's arm, the skin beneath her nails turning pale. With sudden, surprising strength, Lilith Chin shook off Mabel's grip, dropped into a sliding kneel, and lunged straight for Kellen. Had Kellen reacted a split second slower, Lilith Chin would have latched onto his leg. Lilith Chin missed her target and tumbled to the ground. I loudly denounced the Chin couple's cruel actions. They adopted me just to force me to study. They'd starve me if my grades weren't good enough. They even hit me. They often locked me in the storage room. It was full of cockroaches. Wah, they're not my real parents. Sister, can we please switch back? I'm begging you." Lilith Chen's tears fell in heavy drops, her gaunt and pale face making her the very picture of pitiable fragility. But I could still see the artifice in her performance. Little improvement since she was 6. The hatred in her eyes wasn't well concealed. She also rolled up her long sleeves, revealing faint bluish bruises. Barachin approached us with an apologetic smile on his face. "This must be Lilith's sister, Isla, right? This year's top science student at our school. Quite impressive." Then he looked down at the still sobbing Lilith Chin. "I'm really sorry for the trouble my daughter caused today. We've been a bit too strict with Lilith. We're both teachers and always want her to succeed." The parents in the room couldn't help but reflect. Compared to my stellar achievements, Lilith Chen's accusations against the Chin couple seemed utterly trivial. What's the harm in giving a disobedient child a spanking? What's wrong with pushing a child to study when they're slacking off? Is locking a restless child in the storage room really such a big deal? A single offhand remark from Barachin diffused all of Lilith Chen's accusations. Margaret patted her chest with lingering fear. Thank goodness we adopted Isla back. Then I lowered my gaze and smiled. Lilith Chin, what a fool. If it were that simple, would I have waited until after college in my past life? In my previous life, I was admitted to a top university with a science score of 725. Right after military training ended, the Chin couple moved near the university and took it upon themselves to withdraw me from the dormitory. They ordered me to live with them I could barely my breath. But living with them also gave me an opening. While they were at work, I planted hidden cameras in their bedroom, study, and living room. Finally, uncovered the secret this couple had been keeping. They had adopted several children, but none were as clever or resilient as I am. Some were sent back, others were beaten to death. They exploited me to solve problems, writing nonstop, endlessly, then published my solutions under their names in a prestigious journal during my sophomore year. I went to the police with evidence from Her.Didn't camera, only to be told that covertly recorded footage couldn't be used to file a case, and that I had violated their privacy rights. To file a report, evidence must be obtained through legal means. Just as I stood, lost and helpless outside the police station, I ran into Damon, the heir of the Gu family. Rumor has it that Damon, the heir of the Gu family, is a notorious playboy who never dates anyone for more than a month. Yet he changed his ways for one person and pursued her for 2 whole years. Lilith Chin thought Damon was the partner of her dreams. Little did she know, Damon was the darkest abyss she could ever fall into. In this life, I have no ties left with the Chin family. I no longer have to exhaust myself stealing evidence of their crimes. Richard Margaret personally helped me pick out dorm essentials, and Kellen helped me move my luggage. Kellen and I attend the same university. He's studying finance, while I've stuck with physics. Rumor has it that Kellen is one of the most popular guys at school, a real heartthrob. When my roommates found out Kellen is my brother, they were absolutely thrilled. They say he's got it all. Great family background, solid character, top grades, a truly high-quality guy. I think they're right. Kellen has become much more cheerful since his health started improving. I don't understand. No longer the cold and gloomy person Lilith Chin described in her past life. I don't think Lilith Chen will live to see the day I get kicked out of the Lu family because Kellen told me himself. Isla will always be family, I said, with a smile that I believe it. My roommates are all very friendly, too. I never experienced dorm life in my past life, but I'm enjoying it in this lifetime. They made me ginger and brown sugar tea when I had my period. We'd cover for each other when skipping class to slack off. We'd debate which dining hall had the best food. We'd huddle together drooling over photos of cute guys from different departments. I'm so happy that happiness didn't last long. In my sophomore year, I ran into Lilith Chen with Damon on her arm right in front of me. Lilith Chen's face had filled out again, glowing with health, and she looked at me with a smug expression. Cease. Long time no see. Damon's gaze almost imperceptibly, as if appraising a commodity, weighing its worth. I turned away indifferently, unwilling to engage. Lilith Chin shouted behind me, Brother Damon has already helped me terminate the adoption with the Chin family. I paused in my steps, suddenly understanding. It must be that Lilith Chin had reached out to Damon in advance and asked for his help. How absurd. Did Lilith Chin really think I cut ties with them in my past life because of Damon? I said to her coldly, Congratulations. Congrats, little sister. Welcome to the next turning point in your life and the next abyss you'll step into. Faintly from behind, I could hear Lilith Chen's coquettish voice directed at Damon. Damon, my sister has a face like a corpse. I don't want to see her at school. It seems Lilith Chen must have bided her time for a year and managed to get into the school after all. Her academic performance in her past life wasn't exactly poor. She leveraged her past life memories to cozy up to Damon. The Gu family certainly wields considerable influence, but even they can't have absolute control over top tier university. Lilith Chin, thinking she can use Damon's connections to get me expelled, is nothing but a pipe dream. Just like in my past life, I joined the physics research project I'm passionate about. My mentor is one of the top experts in the field. Nationwide, he values me highly and wouldn't let anyone use their influence to fire me so easily. Besides, I'm publicly known as a daughter of the Liu family. If Damon wants to mess with me in this lifetime, he'll have to think twice about whether the Liu family would allow it. Sure enough, one day while deep in my research, my teacher came to me. Have you offended someone? I immediately thought of Damon and Lilith Chin. Noticing my troubled expression, my teacher patted me on the shoulder. Don't worry, you're my student. I know you wouldn't cause trouble. If something's bothering you, don't keep it bottled up. I've got your back. I nodded gratefully. Thank you, Professor. I've never been the ambitious type. All I want is a peaceful life. I don't want anyone to disrupt my current life. Some bastards will chase and bite you the more you run and avoid them. They need to be squashed outright. Today's news is flooded with coverage, 80% of which is dedicated to Damon. Hashtag Gufamilya arrested for alleged prostitution racket. Hashtag Theracrelino Wado Party. Hashtag Ga Corporation under tax and audit investigation. Hashtag Gufamilya involved organized crime KC under investigation. Hashtag watching that heavily pixelated video left a bitter taste in my heart. In my past life, I was the one who got pixelated. The couch cushions sank beside me as Kellen took a seat. What are you watching? You look so upset. Today is my 20th birthday. The impending collapse of the Gu family empire is my birthday gift to myself. I turned off my phone and flashed a bright smile. It's nothing. Kellen hesitated as if wanting to say something, but ultimately remained silent and brought out an exquisite cake. A cake that's all mine. I closed my eyes and made a wish. I hope to embrace the vast universe and live up to my youth. I hope that through all seasons and storms, we stand together. I evenly divided the cake into 4 equal portions and gave one to Richard, Margaret, and my brother. Through the warm, golden candlelight, I saw the clear smile in Kellen's eyes. The Gu family case sent shockwaves across the nation, capturing unprecedented public attention. Yet, on the day of the public trial, Lilith Chin appeared in court as a victim. Before the live cameras and the entire nation, she tearfully recounted how she had been deceived by Damon's appearance and pursuit, and how she was drugged and taken to that despicable clubroom. Her account was utterly heart-wrenching. The public had no idea that Lilith Chin was one of the actresses in those mosaic videos. No, she's the one who came forward and revealed it herself. Online, opinions about her have been mixed ever since. She recounted the first, second, and third time she was forced into the club. The judge's composure nearly broke as he promptly cut off Lilith Chen's statement. Your Honor, I'd like to say one last thing. Lilith Chen wiped the tear stains from her face, her expression resolute, eyes filled with both compassion and defiance. Victims are not to blame. I am a victim, but I will live in the sunlight. We must courageously step forward, confront our painful pasts, shatter them, and finally, the judge cut off Lilith Chen's Impassioned speech with an icy stare. Stick to matters relevant to this case. Watching Lilith Chun through my phone screen, I realized she'd grown sharper, riding the wave of publicity. Lilith Chin started daily live streams and became an influencer with millions of followers. If she doesn't stir up trouble, her future will be smooth sailing. During that day's live stream, Lilith Chin appeared on camera with swollen, red cheeks. The moment she showed up, many fans started asking what happened to her face and if someone had hit her. I actually sigh. Her hesitant response only fueled fans' burning curiosity to press for more details. The live stream was flooded with GIFs, completely covering the screen. Lilith Chin covered her face, eyes glistening with tears, and let out a sudden chuckle. Actually, I have an older sister. I'm being cyberbullied, and it even made it to the hot search list. My name is right there for everyone to see. My phone keeps buzzing with calls and messages from strangers, and people are constantly sending me friend requests on WeChat. They don't actually want to add me. They just want me to see all the hateful messages in the request notes. Their words can't hurt me. The Liu family got caught up in the fallout. I found Lilith Chen's live stream replay to see what kind of trouble she's stirring up. When my sister was 5, she burned our biological parents to death after a year in the orphanage. A wealthy man surnamed Liu wanted to adopt me, but my sister snatched the opportunity first. I was later adopted by another family, but they treated me like an animal. I was covered in wounds every day, which nearly drove me to a mental breakdown and caused my grades to plummet. After a year of recovery, I started studying hard again and got into a top university. My sister introduced me to Damon, and I thought he was my salvation. But, sobbing, it turned out he wasn't. Every single detail, every incident, she completely twisted the truth. All the comments below were comforting her, while others were cursing me to die. I don't understand why she holds such deep resentment toward me. I wonder if my dear 4-year-old sister still remembers what happened back then. She personally put the perfume-soaked doll into the microwave and turned it on. But I remember it all too clearly. In my past life, I was perpetually haunted by the memories of that day. Locked in a pitch-black storage room, I kept reliving it in a cycle of self-torment. When I closed my eyes, the raging flames seemed to ignite the darkness I felt back then. I remember that doll, wearing ugly, tattered clothes with messy golden hair. I remember a small note stuck to it with my name scrawled in messy handwriting. Who in the world could have killed their own parents? I made mistakes, but should I really bear the blame for all of them? But I have no proof. The doll, like her birth parents, had long since turned to dust. Lilith Chin has indeed become more cunning. Her preemptive statements have taken root in the audience's minds. Any rebuttal from me would only come across as a lame excuse, even if someone from the Liu family steps forward to clarify. They'll just be dismissed as birds of a feather. Kellen replaced my SIM card for me. A large hand gently patted my head. Don't worry, I'll take care of it at some point. Kellen's habit of giving me knuckle raps on the head had softened into gentlepots. I stood on tiptoe and playfully tapped Kellen on the head with a laugh. I've always believed in him, but I'm going to return every single knuckle rap he gave me on the head. I holed up in the lab for a whole week, craving some peace and quiet, until the teacher announced the project's success. With tears in her eyes, I blinked back, the tears that were about to spill over. I completed the experiment that I hadn't finished in my previous life. Half of my 20th birthday wish has come true. Reach for the stars and live up to our youth. While I was completely absorbed in the project for a week, the Liu family's stock price took a significant hit. It wasn't that I was just watching helplessly. There was absolutely nothing I could do to help. I opened the door to my home and found Margaret sitting on the couch, looking a bit worn out. When she saw me come in, she forced a faint smile. Margaret rose to greet her. Isla, what brings you back? You must be exhausted, and you've lost weight. I'll have the kitchen prepare some bird's nest soup for you to regain your strength. I held Margaret's hand and said softly, Mom, don't worry about me. How is everything at home? With a concerned expression, Margaret replied, Don't fret about things here. The company matters are being handled by the men. It's you I'm worried about. Stay away from all that nonsense online. I nodded obediently in response. The winds of public opinion have been shifting ever so slightly each day. For the past week, insiders have been continuously leaking information. They've been targeting me, and they've been targeting Lilith Chen. Combined with Lilith Chen's daily live streams where she looks utterly disheveled, this whole situation has kept the buzz alive. Someone has compiled all the recent exposés about me and Lilith Chen over the past couple of days. Some people who went to school with Lilith Chen are also recounting her questionable past. I created an account and posted my first update. Isla Lu. I won't fall into the trap of defending myself against false accusations. If I'm guilty, present the evidence. Within minutes, the official Weibo account of Lu Corporation reposted Lu Corporation V, but I won't allow my little princess to be slandered. Evidence of defamation has been collected, and our legal team is ready to take action. Kellen has started his internship at the company, and Richard is gradually handing over responsibilities to him. He definitely posted this on his own initiative, but I'm actually quite pleased about it. Then, another post surged to the top of trending. Herbert V. from Hawaii University Institute of Physics. Congratulations to our institute on today's breakthrough in overcoming the challenges of the heavy ion accelerator. Special thanks to my student at Isla Lu and all the researchers for their tremendous contributions to Tenation's scientific endeavors. Your passion and unwavering dedication made me proud. The online sentiment has completely shifted. Most people have common sense. The voices spreading defamatory claims against me have significantly dwindled. There are also some haters who just want to vent and spread negativity. Nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, Lilith Chen quickly deleted her account and vanished from the internet. I've noticed that Kellen has been acting strange lately. The way he looks at me is odd. Always a bit cautious and nervous. Why are you always following me? Kellen averted his gaze, snorted coldly, and ignored me. Yet, his footsteps never faltered, trailing closely behind me. With the year-end approaching, the company has been swamped. Yet, Kellen dropped his work to shadow my every move. Amid the bustling street, a sudden chill brushed against my face. I looked up to find snow falling. It suddenly dawned on me. Today marks the anniversary of my death in a past life. The first snow arrived as unexpectedly as Lilith Chen's car. Kellen and I bought some things and headed home. At the estate gate, a car speeding towards us came rushing in. Through the windshield, I could clearly see Lilith Chen's menacing face. It overlapped with the previous life, muttering something under his breath, but I couldn't make out the words or see clearly. My legs refused to move until a violent crash exploded right by my ear. Kellen's low voice reached me. This time, I saved you. Lilith Chen was sent to prison. I went to see her for the last time in her life. Through the thick glass, I picked up the receiver and spoke first. Do you remember putting a doll in the microwave? Lilith Chen's gaze shifted from bitter resentment to sheer terror. I watched her break down screaming until guards dragged her behind the heavy iron doors. Shenzi said human nature is inherently evil. I believe so, too. After all, this was perfectly exemplified in my own sister. I strive to overcome negative and selfish thoughts and behaviors, restraining myself through ethics and laws. My sister fully unleashed her vicious tendencies, and in the end, it all came back to haunt her. Both my sister and I are deeply lacking in love. There's no shame in craving love. Through trial and error, I found my own way to love with an open heart. But my sister, she jumps at every scrap of affection tossed her way, trying to get the most love for the least effort. Even your own sister doesn't love you anymore. Kellen says, I finally saved everyone. I vaguely remember having some truly happy times in my childhood. I think my mom and dad are the best parents in the world. They love me very much. But why did they have to love my sister, too? For the first time, I felt the urge to monopolize all of my parents' love. My sister should have loved me, not competed with me for our parents' affection. When I was 4, I imitated a scene from TV and bossed my sister around to make me snacks. I saw flames shooting up to the sky. It's all my sister's fault. She's the one who blew up the kitchen. She killed Mom and Dad. She took my parents away from me, but I was only 4, and I hated her with a child's pure hatred. We were taken to an orphanage, and as always, my sister ate my leftovers and wore my hand-me-downs. That's just how it should be. She had to take care of me until I was adopted by the Liu family. They had no extra love to spare for me. My so-called brother wouldn't even look me in the eye when I tried to be affectionate with him like I was with my birth parents. He recoiled, as if I were some filthy creature. The Liu family parents found fault with me constantly and were endlessly critical. My parents would never look down on me like this. How come my sister always gets first place? Am I not good enough? Why does she get to marry someone as high status as Damon, while I get thrown out of the house? I was the one who caused my sister's death in the accident. I laughed, a hearty laugh that filled my mouth with blood. I actually got a second chance at life. Thank heavens for giving me another shot at making choices. I'm going to ace this exam and come out on top. I want to marry Damon. I deserve more love than my sister gets. But I messed everything up every day. Barishin would take the belt hanging on the wall and whip my back with it. Mabel locked me in the storage room and drenched me with cold water while I was asleep. Did my sister go through the same thing in her past life? I feel a bit pleased. So, my sister's previous life wasn't as glamorous as it seemed on the surface. I'll just have to endure it. I'm about to run into Damon. Eve, completely fallen off the cliff, covered in my own filth. I want to taint my sister's haughty and unapproachable purity. I failed. In my past life, I saw her fairy tale wedding on the giant screen. This time around, I watched her give a speech on the awards podium. Broadcast live. She doesn't deserve to. Live like this. She's still guilty. She killed our parents. I chose a special day, and I wanted to do it all over. Again, I aimed the car at my sister, again, and slammed on the accelerator. My mouth was full of blood, but I saw Kellen shielding my sister in his arms as they rolled into the bushes. I failed again. My sister came to see me, her face expressionless. But I have to admit, I'm jealous of her. I envy her for having so many admirers, for being doted on by the Liu family, for always being the center of attention since childhood, and for being more beautiful than me. She said, "Do you remember putting a doll in the microwave?" What did she mean by that? I remembered everything. I saw voodoo doll rituals on TV, picked up the discarded doll from the corner, mimicked the TV actions by taping a note with my sister's name onto it. Her name had too many strokes, and in frustration, I threw the doll away. The doll fell right into the trash can, which was giving off a foul smell. I remembered a bottle my mom rarely used. Just one press would release a lovely fragrance. I was going to show it off to my sister. I walked into the kitchen and saw her, standing there dazed in front of the stove, with no sign of the snacks I wanted. I'll just bake her. Then I stuffed the doll into a box and randomly pressed buttons, mimicking my mom's actions. That way, my sister will never steal mom and dad's affection from me. Again, the TV said that if you write her name on a doll, she'll feel pain wherever you poke it. I'm going to bake her and turn her into a pastry. I have a new sister named Isla Lu. She's so tiny and delicate. My mom says I've been unwell, that my heart feels cold, and having my sister around might help. What exactly is a sister? Can I use this as a soccer ball? I saw terror in my mother's eyes. Isla Lu is so annoying. She's always clinging to me, like a shadow. She's gained weight, and her skin is fair. She looks more like a ball now, but I can't kick her. My dad said if I dare to kick my sister, he'll kick me like a ball. It's all about that shared feeling. When she graduated from elementary school, she saw me off to junior high with tears in her eyes. When she graduated from junior high, she sent me off to high school with a beaming smile. My heart suddenly felt a warmth. My sister got into the same university as me. The School of Physics is so far from where I am. Every time I visit her smiling eyes only reflect my own image. The term little sister gradually changed. To Isla, I had a nightmare. That filthy thing turned into my sister and tried to seduce me. Just a dream. Throw it out. My parents were murdered by a rival scheme. Isla was killed by a hit-and-run driver. They're all gone. I'm left alone in this world, completely hardened into an unfeeling machine. Thank goodness it was just a dream. That despicable creature claimed I was his brother. To confirm whether it was truly a dream, I started insisting on interning at Liu Corporation after lying low for so long. I managed to preemptively catch the rival who was trying to kill my parents. It really wasn't just a dream. What about Isla? She lay in the snow, her blood staining the frost crimson. Another winter has come. My heart is racing with growing panic. I had to stick to her like a shadow, kicking me out. You have no idea how many times I've been chewed out by the old fossils at the company for protecting you. I've got you, Isla. See, my heart is still warm. I've had 3 sets of parents. I once held high hopes for my biological parents, only to end up disappointed. I detested the Chin family, and once thought about putting a doll in the microwave, but a past incident with fire held me back. I gave all my love to the parents of the Liu family. I still call them Mom and Dad, holding hands with Kellen. Story 2. My half-sister and I were both chosen for celestial marriage. Alliances in the heavenly palace. The celestial emperor decreed that whichever of us bore a sacred dragon would inherit his throne. In our past lives, our father favored her, securing the celestial prince as her consort, while I was wed to a low-born black serpent. Yet her husband bore an incurable ailment. She birthed only filthy black pythons, becoming the laughingstock of all realms. Though no one believed in me, I laid 10 dragon eggs in 3 years, each of pure royal bloodline. Among them hatched a celestial dragon that ascended the heavenly throne. Consumed by jealousy, my half-sister stabbed me to death. When I reopened my eyes, we'd both returned to the day of our husband's selection ceremony. My half-sister immediately chose the black serpent, convinced she, too, could breed a celestial dragon this lifetime. Little did she know, my ability to birth the sacred dragon had absolutely nothing to do with that black serpent. This time, she couldn't even produce a common black python. 1. When my half-sister and I were born, celestial phenomena occurred. Rainbow-hued auspicious clouds and golden lotuses blooming from the earth, startling even the divine beings of the 9 heavens. The star lord of fate declared we carried the destiny to bear a sacred dragon, prompting the celestial emperor himself to propose marriage. During our coming-of-age ceremony, crown Prince Aurelius stood radiant in gilded chainmail, his noble bearing and striking features making him resemble an undefeated war general under the sun's glow. In stark contrast, the dark serpent Kale beside him appeared rather disheveled and lackluster. The emperor and stepmother gazed at Aurelius with evident approval. In their eyes, they had taken a liking to this prospective son-in-law. But before he could speak, the concubine-born sister blurted out, "Father, I wish to marry the black serpent Kale." The emperor's face darkened. "Lilith, you mustn't. That Kale is a bastard. His mother a lowly black serpent. How could he possibly compare to Aurelius, crown prince of the Celestials? Marrying Aurelius would make you the future celestial empress. Don't be foolish." Due to his inferior bloodline, Kale had only achieved the lowest rank of wandering immortal after centuries of cultivation, while Aurelius had long since ascended as a golden immortal, the renowned god of war of the divine race. The difference is like night and day. Even a fool would know which to choose. Watching my father desperately coax my half-sister, I could only feel the bitter irony. My half-sister's mother was originally a foot-washing maiden. The queen's palace, she secretly climbed her way up, becoming the emperor's favorite concubine, a betrayal that drove my mother to her grave. And before a year had passed since my mother's death, my father crowned that woman as the new empress, doting on my half-sister beyond measure. As the legitimate princess, born of the principal wife, I'm the perfect match for Aurelius. By all rights, he should be my consort. Yet in father's eyes, everything worthy, whether a man is exceptional as Aurelius or the celestial queen's divine favor, belongs to my bastard sister, were it not for sharing her birth date and his fear of offending the celestials. I'd have been married off to some nobody, never even permitted to set foot in the heavenly palace. To everyone's surprise, my sister stubbornly insisted, "Father, I'm not your true-born princess, though mortals differ from gods. Both value equal matches. Should I overreach, the celestial clan's wrath would bring divine retribution upon you kingdom, making me history's greatest traitor. Father, I wouldn't want to tarnish your eternal legacy. Marrying Kale is truly the wisest choice. My dear Lilith, how you've suffered." With heartache written across his face, the Emperor clasped my half-sister's hand and ultimately consented to her decision. Yet when his gaze turned to me again, it burned with nothing but contempt. He commanded with finality, "Heiress, you shall marry Aurelius then. But remember, this match was yielded to you by your half-sister, who sacrificed everything for our kingdom of you. Should you dare mistreat her even slightly in the celestial palace, you'll answer to me." Watching his blatant favoritism, I couldn't suppress a cold laugh. Breaking from my past docility, I retorted, "My mother was used rightful queen, and I'm its true-born princess. This alliance with Aurelius is my birthright. What need is there for my half-sister's charity?" The Emperor never expected my defiance. Furious, he raised his hand to strike, then checked himself, remembering the celestial envoys present and fearing diplomatic consequences. He sneered, "Don't imagine becoming celestial consort places you beyond my reach. Remember your deceased mother and your living grandfather and uncles. I could snuff out their lives as easily as turning my palm. This was my own father, called as a sworn enemy." A chill ran through me, for I knew he was fully capable of such cruelty. After the Emperor departed, my half-sister turned to me with a triumphant smirk. "Sister, how dare you defy His Majesty the moment you're chosen as celestial consort? You're courting death. I remain father's most beloved daughter. Mark my words, I'm the one rejecting Aurelius this time. Otherwise, you'd never stand a chance. Keep that useless failure who can't sire a sacred dragon for yourself." Sister, hearing her gloating tone, I instantly realized my half-sister had also been reborn 02 in our previous life. When the celestial clan came, seeking marriage, my half-sister immediately set her sights on the noble Aurelius. Our imperial father arranged the match in her favor. Soon after, my half-sister and I were wed into the celestial court. She became the exalted celestial consort, while I was reduced to a lowly serpent's bride. The celestial emperor decreed that whichever of us bore the sacred dragon would inherit his throne, gaining true dominion over all realms. My half-sister brimmed with confidence, for Aurelius was a pure-blooded azure dragon, while the base-born black serpent Kale made her victory seem assured. Little did she know, Aurelius born an innate affliction that rendered him sterile, whereas Kale's serpentine heritage granted him exceptional nocturnal prowess. Later, my half-sister and I went into labor simultaneously. The children she bore were either lifeless stillbirths or mediocre black serpents, enraging the celestial emperor who stripped Aurelius of his crown prince status. Yet when my child was born, the celestial palace trembled as birds heralded its arrival, the divine omen of a sacred dragon's birth. Consumed by resentment over my impending coronation as celestial empress, my half-sister murdered me in cold blood. This time she chose Kale without hesitation, pinning her hopes on him to sire a sacred dragon, convinced the failure to conceive one could never be her own shortcoming. 3 days later, the celestial clan set the wedding date, moved by her half-sister's noble speech. During the suitor selection, the emperor, feeling remorse, prepared lavish dowry gifts beyond measure. Even the legendary 10-mile red dowry paled in comparison. All I had was a modest jewelry box. My incorruptible grandfather had to scrape together every penny to afford even that. My half-sister sneered at the sight. Elder sister, you're marrying the celestial prince. How shameful to appear so destitute. Aren't you afraid the immortal beings across the 9 heavens and 10 realms will laugh at you? I smiled faintly, both at my half-sister's foolishness and my father's lack of judgment. The 9 heavens are sacred realms where enlightened immortals dwell in eternal freedom. What use have they for earthly trinkets of gold and jade? Just a pile of worthless scrap metal. No matter how much you send, it's nothing but a laughingstock. My stepsister grew visibly irritated when she failed to provoke me. As if struck by a thought, she suddenly leaned in. Sister, surely you know the celestial crown prince is merely an heir. To become the heavenly emperor, one must sire a sacred dragon. That useless Aurelius, he was born incapable. You'd better work harder, sister. If Aurelius loses his position as crown prince, your comfortable life will vanish. I'd heard rumors of Aurelius failing health during my previous ascension to the celestial palace. After my half-sister bore multiple stillborn children, the truth became undeniable. The sacred dragon embodies heaven's mandate. Only when the celestial emperor became convinced of Aurelius' incapacity did he strip him of the crown prince's title. Sister, we'll cross future bridges when we come to them. For now, I remain the celestial consort. Address me with such insolence again, and you'll face the consequences. If you doubt my words, dear sister, feel free to test them. Let's see whether our imperial father arrives in time to save you. I sneered coldly and retorted, that's absolutely right. As long as Aurelius remains the celestial prince, I have every right to deal with my half-sister, and I know Kale's nature all too well. If she marries him, she'll get exactly what she deserves. You dare threaten me? Fine, fine, fine. Heiress, you don't get too cocky. Once I bear Kale's sacred dragon, it'll be your turn to beg on your knees, perhaps realizing that confronting me head-on would only bring her disadvantage. My stepsister uncharacteristically backed down. In his view, Aurelius' inability to produce a sacred dragon would inevitably lead to his dethronement. She could afford to wait for her vengeance. There was no need to rush this petty satisfaction, for the celestial wedding procession was magnificent in its grandeur. Both Aurelius and Kale were of the celestial clan. Thus, the wedding procession was arranged with extraordinary pomp and circumstance to help my half-sister and me adapt. The heavenly emperor bestowed upon us divine elixirs, granting us the powers of celestial maidens to come and go as we pleased. The bridal palanquin descended upon Aurelius' celestial manor as the war god of heaven and crown prince of the celestial clan. His residence was predictably magnificent, beyond compare, compared to Kale's cave, dwelling from my past life. The latter's abode could only be described as a thatched hut, utterly unimpressive. I sat upright in the bedchamber awaiting Aurelius. The celestial emperor had thrown a grand wedding banquet, and he was still entertaining the gathered immortals. Beneath the crimson veil, my vision was completely obscured, just as drowsiness threatened to overtake me after who knows how long. A pair of black leather boots suddenly appeared before me. Before I could gather my wits, the bridal veil was lifted. Raising my eyes, I beheld Aurelius' face, a visage worthy of the heavens themselves. His complexion appeared slightly pale, with traces of illness lingering between his brows. When our gazes met, a faint blush involuntarily rose to his cheeks. Heiress, our last meeting was too brief for proper introductions. I am Aurelius, your betrothed from this day forth. Not knowing your preferences, I took the liberty of forging this heart guard, mirror from my own reverse scales. May it shield you from harm. My breath caught in my throat as I beheld the heart guard mirror cradled in those elegantly veined hands. Memories from my past life spared me from complete ignorance of the celestial realm, particularly regarding dragonkind, a subject I knew intimately. Even dragons have their vulnerable scale. Touch it and perish. I never expected Aurelius to present me with such a priceless gift right away, leaving me utterly at a loss. Won't you be in danger without your reverse scale? I gazed at him with concern. Aurelius chuckled. Worry not. Those legends don't apply to me. With it guarding you, I can rest easy. Hearing this, I couldn't keep pretending and reached out to accept the heart scale. Seeing this, Aurelius' face lit up with delight. His docile demeanor made me chuckle involuntarily. My memories of him from the past life were faint. He'd only stepped in a few times when my stepsister bullied me. Though his expression was aloof, I could tell he was a decent immortal. Nothing like that scoundrel Kale who preys on female celestials. But later, when his concubine sister repeatedly gave birth to stillborn children, Aurelius became the laughingstock of the 9 heavens, leading him to retreat into prolonged seclusion. At this thought, I couldn't help but sigh. Such a noble immortal shouldn't have met such a wretched fate. Lost in the moment, I momentarily lost control of my emotions. Aurelius cast a concerned glance my way. Does this artifact displease you, Heiress? If so, I shall forge other magical treasures for you later. He'd inquired beforehand that the first gift should convey sincerity, and nothing could represent his heartfelt intentions better than this. No, I genuinely love this heart-protecting mirror. You've put real thought into it, I quickly clarified, shaking my head as I noticed his despondent expression. His eyes instantly brightened when he realized my response wasn't just polite lip service. This tenderness was leagues beyond Kale's. In my past life, he'd always overridden my objections with brute force. Serpents possess uncanny gifts, and with the incense he burned to set the mood, that night became my living nightmare. Afterwards, he said coldly, your father made it clear. If you resist, your maternal family will be slaughtered. Do you want to watch them die horribly? I knew Kale wasn't bluffing. My dear father would absolutely murder my grandparents and uncles to maintain his alliance with that monster. In the end, I surrendered. The torment only eased when pregnancy granted me temporary respite. My lord, let me help you undress for bed. My heart fluttered as I gazed up at the towering Aurelius, knowing full well he was now my sole protector. So long as he remained in power, the emperor wouldn't dare touch my maternal family out of respect for him. Though serving a man shamed me, I had no choice. As the garments fell away, the expected sight never came. Instead, a horrific wound marred his sculpted torso, so deep I could see the ghastly white bone beneath torn flesh. The scar was surrounded by ominous dark energy that prevented healing, making the wound appear particularly gruesome. I looked up in shock at the pale-faced man whose calm expression betrayed nothing. Who could have guessed he'd suffered such grave injuries? Did I frighten you, Iris? Aurelius patted my head with a smile and explained the scars. Origin, a battle wound from his campaigns. Years of constant travel left no time to tend to his injuries, and now they've worsened. Fortunately, he's found a treatment, though it'll take considerable time, he said softly. I'm practically an invalid now, hardly in any condition, but if Iris insists, I suppose I could manage. And no need. Focus on recovery. I couldn't possibly misunderstand his implication and quickly changed the subject. At this moment, I found myself utterly speechless. To think my half-sister still wanted to do such things in our past life when you were already this badly injured. She must have been utterly deranged. Just focus on recovering first, I said softly. Last lifetime, even a lowly black serpent like Kale, and I produced a sacred dragon. I refused to believe our offspring with the far nobler Aurelius bloodline could possibly be inferior. The priority now is ensuring proper recovery. With tender eyes, Aurelius murmured, Iris, once I've recovered, I'll never leave you alone again. The intensity in his gaze made my cheeks flush. As a dragon, Aurelius would surely be more overwhelming than Kale in certain aspects. I wasn't quite ready, yet this gave me the perfect excuse to postpone things. After our marriage, Aurelius focused on his recovery while I adapted to the magical powers from the elixir and the spells he taught me. I heard my half-sister summon the court physician the day after her wedding. Turns out she'd been desperately trying to conceive the imperial heir, making quite a spectacle of herself in the process. Even the celestial maidens couldn't help but mock her. These heavenly maidens value their dignity above all. Now my sister's become the laughingstock of the entire celestial court. Utterly humiliated, yet shameless as she is, she actually came to my chambers, lifted my sleeve, and upon seeing my untouched maidens, Mark swelled with triumph. Sister, you're still a virgin. How pitiful to sleep alone in that cold bed every night. The useless Aurelius can't even sire a dragonair. Soon this divine palace and all its splendor will belong to me. The concubine's daughter sneered, stroking her belly with undisguised triumph. Kale's prowess was undeniable. She was certain her womb would quicken. Soon, the title of Celestial Empress would be hers in this lifetime. I watched my stepsister sneer, but before I could speak, Aurelius materialized behind me without warning. His expression was icy as he spoke with lethal calm. Mere mortal, how dare you insult the celestial crown prince? This insolence warrants punishment. 5. No. One saw him move, yet in the next instant, my previously haughty stepsister was suddenly on her knees. Then, like one possessed, she raised her hands and struck her own face with resounding slaps, left and right. You. My half-sister's eyes widened in terror as crimson handprints bloomed across her pale cheeks. I suddenly laughed at the sight. This half-sister of mine had always been outrageously domineering, spoiled by our father's favor in the mortal realm. In her past life, she'd married Aurelius and ascended as celestial consort. inflating her arrogance further. Her tyrannical nature made her forget this was no longer that lifetime, now that the tables have turned. Her loose tongue still warrant some punishment. Iris, I've gathered mermaid tears from the eastern sea and crafted them into a necklace. Come see. Splendid. Aurelius seemed determined to spare me the sight of that wretched creature, leading me toward the palace chambers. I followed willingly. The stepsister knelt outside for 3 full hours, her face swollen from slaps. When Cale came to claim her, his expression looked as though he'd swallowed a fly. He berated his half-sister viciously. You brainless wretch. This is the celestial realm, not your mortal palace. If you're hell-bent on dying, go die. Alone. Don't drag me down with you. Cale was the epitome of selfishness, always putting himself first. His half-sister's actions had humiliated him beyond measure this time, were it not for her destined role in bearing the sacred dragon. He would have tossed her back to the mortal realm long ago. As his half-sister departed, her eyes burned with venomous hatred. I knew this wouldn't be the end of it. As expected, 3 days after our wedding, Aurelius and I returned to my family home according to marital customs. Aurelius had meticulously prepared numerous precious gifts, enough to fill over a dozen luxurious carriages. My stepsister and Cale also arrived, but came empty-handed, with my stepsister wearing an especially sour expression. I'd anticipated this. It was exactly the same scenario as in my previous life. Cale sneered arrogantly. I'm an immortal descending to the mortal realm. Your father should consider it the greatest honor. Instead of offering prupe tributa, they dare expect gifts from me. Yet when my half-sister and Cale arrived empty-handed, father welcomed them with overwhelming approval. But my magnificent chariot and prize stallions earn not even a glance. The family banquet had barely begun when he snorted in disdain. Iris, I entrusted you with your sister's care in the celestial palace, and how do you repay me? By humiliating her before the entire court. This is outright treason. It seems you've forgotten every word of my counsel. I sneered. I didn't strike your daughter's face. She overstepped her bounds by insulting my husband. The celestial court has strict laws. Would your Majesty defend her defiance of divine order? Seeing my sharp retort, Aurelius's expression darkened beside me, and my father finally realized his misstep. He bellowed, Enough of this insolence. You share the same blood. Your sisters, young and foolish. Shouldn't you, as elder sister, plead for leniency? Failing that, taking her punishment would be your duty. How shameless! These hollow words about sisterly love only made me laugh bitterly. In my past life, Cale tortured me beyond recognition. Yet, when I begged our father for help, he just stood by indifferently. He even forbade me from seeking the celestial palace's aid, claiming I'd disgrace him and my half-sister. And now, this sudden change of heart. Your Majesty, didn't you have matters to discuss with Iris? This is the perfect opportunity. As your granddaughter, she deserves to know the truth. The stepmother suddenly interjected, dressed in lavish silks. The middle-aged woman had a fox-like charm about her, though she spoke conciliatory words. They sent a chill down my spine, an ill omen, just as I feared. The Emperor's icy voice cut through. This ungrateful daughter has addled my wits. Since you're here, I'll speak plainly. The censor has impeached her maternal uncles, conspiring with factions at court, taking bribes, trafficking in official posts. Our investigation confirms these crimes. They're already in chains to be exiled north in days. Since you've returned, go see them one last time. My face paled instantly upon hearing my maternal grandfather's family had been imprisoned. Everyone in you knows my grandfather's household is beyond reproach. These bribery charges are utterly absurd. Pure fabrication. Catching my stepsister's smug grin, I immediately recognized her scheme for revenge. Pointing at the emperor, I finally snapped. Tyrant, how dare you? My father never expected such audacity. As he raised his hand to strike, Aurelius suddenly swept his sleeve through the air. My father was sent flying several meters before, coughing up a mouthful of blood, teeth included. The emperor stared at Aurelius in horror, never imagining he'd actually strike. My stepsister shrieked in outrage. Aurelius, this is the mortal realm. Using celestial power here. Do you want the heavenly emperor's wrath? Aurelius replied icily. Insult my celestial consort, and death would be mercy. The heavenly execution platform holds no terror for me. The celestial punishment platform was a dreaded place, where deities received divine retribution. Yet Aurelius remained astonishingly composed. Not only was my half-sister stunned, even the emperor turned deathly pale with fright. I'll take you to bring your grandparents into the heavenly palace, Aurelius declared, pulling me from the banquet before storming the celestial prison to free my ancestors. When I saw them, I broke down in uncontrollable sobs. There, sweetheart, don't cry. Your grandfather and uncles are all safe and sound thanks to your blessings. We've even immortality. This calls for celebration, not tears. Grandfather gently patted my head to soothe me. Gradually, my sobs subsided as I looked at Aurelius with gratitude. His unwavering protection moved me deeply. Such tenderness I'd never known before, filling my heart with indescribable warmth. After paying respects to our late mother, as we returned to the celestial palace together, my half-sister hissed venomously, Sister, remember today's humiliation. When I bear the sacred dragon's heir, I'll repay your arrogance 100-fold. Let's see how long your pride lasts. The bright red slap mark on her face couldn't even be concealed by makeup. I didn't need to think twice to know how it got there. It seems my dear father isn't completely brainless after all. I normally wouldn't care about my half-sister's provocations, but thinking of how proud Aurelius is as an immortal, I couldn't bear to see him truly deposed, so I began paying serious attention to the matter of hatching the sacred dragon, probing Aurelius about his injuries both openly and discreetly every day. But the injury must have been grave indeed. Before his recovery came the news of my stepsister's pregnancy. 6. My stepsister arrived in grand fanfare to gloat. Sister, your days of comfort are numbered. When I birth the divine dragon, I shall ascend as celestial empress. The celestial emperor, valuing her pregnancy above all, dispatched an archangel for her personal protection, as Aurelius needed time to recuperate from his injuries. His duties overseeing the celestial army were put on hold. The heavenly emperor issued a decree transferring many military authorities to Kale for a time. They became the undisputed center of attention in the celestial palace. As days passed, my half-sister's pregnancy became increasingly evident. Yet I, who entered the celestial palace alongside her that same day, showed no signs of conception. The destiny of the sacred dragon maiden now seemed almost certain to fall upon my half-sister. Many celestial beings began hastily choosing sides. Our once bustling mansion grew increasingly desolate in recent days. Strangely, I felt no anxiety about this. These celestial beings had been freeloading daily and should long grown weary of entertaining them only out of respect. For Aurelius' reputation did I reluctantly play host. Now that they've stopped coming, I feel much more at ease with the heavenly emperor, bestowing so many treasures. My half-sister's pregnancy soon reached full term amidst the entire celestial court's anticipation. She finally laid several serpent eggs, preening with pride like a peacock spreading its tail. But as the cracking sounds echoed one after another, her face fell. Not a single sacred dragon, not even a lesser flood dragon, emerged from those eggs. Just the lowliest black serpents. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Who stole my sacred dragon? The stepsister stared at the black serpent in the egg, her entire being consumed by madness. Her eyes brimmed with disbelief. This was exactly how she'd hatched the sacred dragon in her past life. How could things have gone so wrong? Convinced someone had stolen her divine beast, she made accusations that only drew mocking laughter from the assembled immortals. These divine eggs were guarded by multiple high guards and patrolled by countless celestial soldiers. Not even a fly could slip through, let alone a thief. So these black serpents were indeed the concubine's children. The shocking contrast instantly turned her and Kale into laughingstocks across the celestial court. The celestial emperor even threatened to strip Kale of his position, but the concubine pleaded, "Your Majesty, a divine dragon is destined by heaven. How could one possibly be born in a single attempt? Kale and I are fully prepared. We'll soon conceive again. This time we'll surely bear the divine dragon." The emperor conceded to this logic. He lifted the attempt limit but imposed a century-long deadline. Failure to produce the divine dragon would cost them everything, even from within the palace walls. I could hear the gossip. My half-sister disregarded her recovery to share Kale's bed again. Their bloody consummation became legendary, earning them notoriety as the celestial realm's most prolific couple. Yet the outcomes grew increasingly. With each failed pregnancy, she became the laughingstock of immortal courts. Even Kale lost faith in their supposed auspicious destiny, withdrawing his favor entirely, as rumors about the holy dragon being mere legend reached fever pitch. Aurelius finally emerged from seclusion. Before I could even test the waters, he pulled me into an embrace, nuzzling against my ear. "Heiress, forgive me for letting you endure such slander all this time. My wounds have healed now. Shall we consummate our marriage?" I looked up at Aurelius to find his eyes darken with desire, yet he remained the perfect gentleman, waiting eagerly for my response. Truth be told, I hadn't feared him for a long time, and I wanted to help dispel those ridiculous rumors about his infertility. So under his hopeful gaze, I gave a soft hum before wrapping my arms around his neck. The implication couldn't have been clearer. Aurelius' eyes instantly sparkled with newfound brightness. He gazed at me with luminous eyes. "Thank you. Thank heavens for bringing you to me." I opened my eyes to see Aurelius' furry head as he gently kissed my forehead like the most devout worshiper. My heart warmed as I squeezed his hand and whispered back, "Me, too. Thank heavens for sending you to me." A fully recovered Aurelius was incredibly energetic, and soon enough I became pregnant. The entire celestial court was thrown into shock. After all, my half-sister had repeatedly given birth to stillborn infants, and those lifeless black serpents. The immortals had long stopped believing in the sacred dragon prophecy, yet now, against all odds, I, the very heavenly consort declared, barren, was with child, hope rekindled in their hearts. Even the celestial emperor summoned Aurelius and me for an audience, personally advising me to take special care during this pregnancy. A rare gesture indeed, yet no grand rewards followed. Having cried wolf too many times before, the emperor remained cautious, unwilling to celebrate prematurely. When my stepsister learned of my pregnancy, she came sneering with contempt. "Dear sister, what does your pregnancy matter? Just a clutch of useless eggs. Only I can birth the sacred dragon. Then prove it, little sister. Don't just flap your lips. Show me this miracle birth." I refused to tolerate her mockery and fired back without hesitation. At this point, how could I not realize my ability to birth the sacred dragon in my past life likely had nothing to do with Kale? My stepsister was fuming with rage, yet she dared not argue. After my pregnancy, Aurelius had stationed his most trusted guards around me, who now watched her with icy stares. The slightest misstep from her would prompt immediate action. She knew better than to invite trouble. The stepsister slunk away in defeat while I settled into the celestial palace for my confinement. Aurelius' excessive attentiveness, fretting over every potential bump or scrape, became almost tiresome. 7. Your Highness, I'm not that delicate. You don't need to be so cautious. I have magic protecting me now. That's completely different. You're carrying my child. No amount of caution is too much. Seeing his earnest expression, I knew persuasion was futile, and let him remain concerned. Just when I thought life would settle into peace, my stepsister somehow managed to conceive again, even deepening her bond with Kale through unknown means. This time, she was convinced the child would be the sacred dragon, going so far as to petition the celestial emperor to test it with the heaven's mirror. Though the mirror cannot fully discern bloodlines, it vaguely reveals spiritual potential. The greater the innate talent, the more violently the mirror reacts. The five-colored divine light she summoned from the mirror surpassed even Aurelius' legendary feat from ages past. I chose not to compete for precedence, for the heavenly mirror might harm the unborn child. My half-sister sneered, "Dear sister, if you're afraid, just admit it. Must you make excuses? You dread the mirror revealing your inferior lineage and becoming the celestial court's laughingstock." I ignored her taunts, yet suspicion grew within me. Despite her previous offspring's wretched quality, she'd never used the heavenly mirror before. Her sudden confidence reeked of deception. Where there's anomaly, there's trickery. I quietly instructed Aurelius to stay vigilant against potential schemes. "All right, leave this to me." Aurelius was utterly compliant with me these days, agreeing to whatever I said. As time passed, my pregnancy advanced until I was on the verge of labor, yet somehow my stepsister managed to give birth on the very same day when my stepsister's serpent egg hatched. Auspicious clouds swirled across the celestial palace, Such a spectacle left all the immortals utterly awestruck. In that moment, they became convinced her offspring was the sacred dragon. Flattered beyond measure, she beamed with pride, watching eagerly as the eggshell cracked open. Yet this time, the eggshell showed no signs of movement, just as everyone grew puzzled. My labor came to an end. A celestial phenomenon even more intense. Then my sisters erupted, leaving the heavenly court astounded. The immortals exchanged bewildered glances, wondering if two divine dragons might emerge at once. Such joyous news brought smiles, even to the heavenly emperor's face. My dragon egg had absorbed abundant spiritual energy in the womb, with Aurelius nourishing it daily with his own power. Thus upon birth, the sacred dragonling shattered its shell, its golden scales blazing like the sun, and soared through the 9 heavens. 8. The celestial dragon, the heavenly consort, has truly birthed the celestial dragon. The immortals were so overwhelmed they could barely speak coherently. The prophecy of the fate deity still echoed in their ears. With the celestial dragon's birth, Aurelius was destined to become the new heavenly emperor. This was the celestial realm's greatest celebration. Yet amidst the jubilant crowd, only the stepsister wore a deranged expression, shaking her head frantically. Impossible, utterly impossible. How could she possibly give birth to the sacred dragon? My child is the true heir. Her shrill voice drew countless disapproving glances, yet the stepsister paid no heed. Without warning, she slashed her palm and let blood drip onto the serpent egg. The celestial beings froze in shock at this act. Then something even more sinister occurred. The egg voraciously consumed the blood, its golden shell darkening to pitch black as waves of demonic energy erupted from its surface. With a sickening crack, the shell shattered. Horror gripped the immortals as they beheld not a sacred dragon, but a 3-headed abomination emerging from the ruins with a thunderous roar. It lunged at the young sacred dragon, circling overhead with terrifying speed. The sudden assault caught all the celestial beings off guard. By the time they reacted, it was too late. The sacred dragon embodied the divine mandate of the gods. Its loss would be catastrophic, sending them into collective fury. How dare you? Aurelius' enraged shout erupted as he appeared, his face contorted with wrath, ever vigilant in guarding both me and the young dragon. Thus, he was first to perceive the threat. Without hesitation, he shape-shifted into his true form, a colossal azure dragon soaring skyward to intercept the assailant. In an instant, this turn of events differed completely from my past life, leaving me utterly stunned. Soon, a knowledgeable onlooker recognized the origins of this abyssal dragon. They were originally another dragon clan that had failed in their bid for the celestial throne, causing their entire bloodline to descend into demonic corruption as scourges upon the world. The abyssal dragon lineage was nearly exterminated during the heavenly realms crusades. Who could have imagined their reappearance today and emerging from my stepsister's serpent egg? No less, the abyssal dragon's cultivation fell far short of Aurelius' power, further restrained by the celestial palaces. Formation arrêt. It stood no chance against Aurelius in his true form, its pitch-black blood staining the 9 heavens. Victory was merely a matter of time in this state. The celestial emperor finally withdrew his gaze and thundered in fury. Kale has conspired with his Tao companion to ally with the abyssal dragon, a crime punishable by death. seize them at once. My stepsister's blood ritual to awaken the abyssal dragon proved her complicity beyond doubt, conspiring with that vile creature to murder my holy dragonling. She deserves execution 10 times over with their mediocre cultivation. My stepsister and Kale stood no chance against the legion of celestial beings. They were subdued in an instant. At this moment, Aurelius severed all 3 heads of the abyssal dragon, its life force extinguished as it collapsed into a lifeless corpse. No, how could my sacred dragon perish? I am the celestial empress. Are you all blind? Release me this instant. The bastard sister raged. In vain, none would heed her. Stripped of magic alongside Kale, they were cast into the divine punishment altar to endure daily soul-scorching thunderbolts. She kept babbling about redoing everything and claiming the throne, but the celestial beings dismissed her ravings as madness. I knew exactly what she was scheming, but her chance is gone forever, for I've birthed the sacred dragon, and heaven itself has bestowed divine grace upon me, elevating me to true immortality. Now I've truly broken free from the cycle of reincarnation, roaming the cosmos unfettered. She'll never get another opportunity. Yet I still wondered where she'd found that cursed dragon until my grandfather returned from the mortal realm and unexpectedly brought back the answer. Turns out this vile serpent belonged to my imperial father when he was still a prince. He stumbled upon the last remnants of the fallen dragon lineage, though he was never destined to wear the crown. By exploiting the abyssal dragon's unique nature, he forcibly claimed draconic destiny. Thus, though utterly incompetent, he managed to cling to the imperial throne. This secret was discovered by his stepmother, who later whispered it to his half-sister. She then conspired with Kale to purify the abyssal dragon through occult rites, hoping to obtain a sacred dragon, but in their folly, they never realized they'd walked into the abyssal dragon's trap. They recklessly sacrificed hundreds of thousands of soldiers' blood and souls, not only breaking the dragon's seals, but also allowing it to hijack a womb, manifesting its physical form. Little did they know they'd outsmarted the cursed dragon, which had planned to remain dormant, controlling the half-sister to smuggle itself out of the celestial realm before hatching. But, against all odds, the bastard sister forcibly awakened it prematurely with a blood curse detected by my holy dragonling. The creature was forced to hatch prematurely in a desperate bid for survival, depleted of magic reserves and stripped of home advantage. It met its untimely demise before accomplishing anything. The reason my half-sister could make the celestial mirror reveal the 5-colored divine light was simple. This accursed dragon possessed the greatest innate talent in our clan. Thus it deceived the heavenly emperor into granting it countless treasures to devour and grow. Yet fate would have its way. The dragon still met its defeat when the accursed dragon fled. My imperial father's dragon destiny shattered, losing hundreds of thousands of troops in the dynasty's celestial mandate. Warlords across the realm rose to claim kingship. In mere 3 days, the imperial capital fell. He suffered the gruesome fate of dismemberment by 5 horses, a most wretched end. After hearing grandfather's words, I just let out a long sigh. I felt no pity for him, only that he deserved it. Trusting eunuchs indulging in women, alienating loyal ministers. Each was his own undoing.